We're going to get the show going. An awkward start to the show today. All right. There we go. Linux Unplugged 243. Hello, chat room. Good to see you. irc.geekshed.net if you want to get in on that. Pound Jupiter Broadcasting. I'm officially opening up the title suggestions, too. Title suggestions are open. Linux Unplugged is starting. Yeah, there's an active shooter situation. Yeah, we know. Yeah, as we record, as we go in there's an active shooter situation in at the YouTube headquarters, actually. It's awkward. It's awkward. Maybe that's what everybody's doing up in the lobby.
Yeah, I suppose so, huh?
All right. Well, mumble room or no? I guess we go. It's gonna have everybody's attention because that's such a well-known, established place. The freaking YouTube headquarters,
I hang out there all the time,
It's kind of a big deal.
like every day.
Do you now?
Thankfully, not today. I mean, we're doing the show.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, otherwise you wouldn't be able to do the show. I tell you what, I got a little of that in me, just a little bit. I'll try to get it out so that it's not in the show.
Yeah, just kind of push it out.
I had a gut ache today. A little TMI there, but I had a gut ache, so I'm behind on my caffeine intake. So I got the yawns.
How do we help you?
How do we
Make you some sort of like caffeine slurry?
No, I think at this point I'd have to mainline it. I think.
Yeah, you're right. You would have to mainline it.
Yeah.
That's the only way.
If anybody knows anything about cubes, why don't you stop on by the Mumble Room and talk to us about it? I would like to have somebody tell me about it, but I don't really know much about Cubes 4, but I still think it's worth the mention. Yeah, don't you think?
Yeah.
Hey, I see Joe and a Hey Citizen. Hi guys.
Hey, citizen.
Hey Citizen. Hello Joe. How are you?
Yeah, not too bad. I need to finish cleaning my flat, and then I will be
don't we
in the
all?
mumble room.
Yeah, I should do the same. All right, cool. Just don't leave your mic open while you're doing it.
Unless you're singing a
not
song
push
while
talk
you
up.
work.
Master got me working.
There we go.
Mississippi. Yeah, I'll leave it on push to talk. I'll be back in a sec.
All right,
well,
cool.
about 5-10 minutes.
All right. Oh, I tell you what. What a week. What a week. So my kids are on spring break this week, so I was over there last night while I was finishing publishing Coda Radio. And then came to the studio and started working on this show and TechSnap. Fell asleep. So Hidea came down here with Levi
Aw.
and showed up. And then, we just got done doing TechSnap. I think I'm just a little worn out. I'm a little worn out. But I am looking forward to taking the kids out to Seaside, Oregon for the weekend. So that'll be nice. We're going to load up Lady
Yo.
Jupes, head down. I'm going to do a Linux Action News from Seaside.
That sounds baller.
Yeah, it's going to be great.
Seaside's a nice place.
Yeah, it's not bad. And they got a dog-friendly brewery. So,
Done.
yeah.
Well, if you need a second terrier, Charlie's all yours.
Charlie probably love it in the RV. It's good size for terriers. Hey, Citizen.
So that's like, what, a 5-hour drive for you?
I should be about 2.5, 3.
Oh, that's not too
Well, actually, no, I take that back. 'Cause we'll definitely do at least 2 stops. So, yeah, probably about a 5-hour drive. Yeah, you're probably right. You are probably right. Oh, man. Well, I hope everything's okay at YouTube. I don't think we know the details yet, but I suppose we will.
Without going into too many details on a live stream, I should be good for Sunday as normal, Chris.
Oh, okay. Yeah, all right. Well, that's easy. Yeah, and so I was saying they have a brewery there, and the nice thing about this brewery is in Seaside is A, they let dogs there outside, and B, they have a fireplace outside. It's a big old,
Oh, I love that.
big bench fireplace, like one of those long ones, so you can usually find a spot by the fireplace. And it's walkable from where we have the campsite to the beach, and it's it's not like not all of the Washington beaches. Some of them are sandy, but the majority of the Washington beaches are traditional Pacific Northwest beaches where they got like rocks and pebbles everywhere.
Yes.
And the seaside shore, all that area in Oregon, that shore in Oregon, has like that traditional golden, fluffy sand when it's not all wet. All right. Well, I think we'll start. Even though we got people showing up. Hey, Charlie, you ready to join us? Are you ready over there, Mr. Payne?
I am ready.
Payne in the West. All right, chat room, please bang suggestals as we go along. We will need them. Let's see. We'll do a little look. See if I should be able to do this. Yep. Oh, nope. That. Yep, that worked. And then let's do a quick sound check. It's a little low. Charlie's on my cord.
All of that's well and good. Here's the downside.
I got it.
And this is why I asked Si, you know about computers? And he does. Linux has never really been for real average people.
Hey, man, that hurts.
It's really designed by and used by computer enthusiasts. And so you'll use Linux for a while, and then you'll run up against something that's just weird.
No, it's you.
And unlike Windows, there's so few people that use it as a desktop operating system. It's sometimes hard to figure out how to get around these roadblocks. Things don't work right. I'll give you an example. I was running a version of Ubuntu.
You get it. All right, stop it.
And I decided to use the open source version of Google's Chrome.
Stop it.
I like the idea that there's Leo that you can't turn off and just like haunts you.
Uninterruptible, unmanageable Leo.
Yeah.
Maximum Leo.
Like somehow the soundboard crashes and the live stream crashes and you can't stop any of it.
Yeah. So, oh gosh. How have we not thought of this before? We should take bets at the beginning of the show if Gnome's going to crash during the show or not.
Oh, what's the prize?
Oh, I mean, really, it's just
a really
cred.
Good Chris rant about the crash.
Well, no, I feel like, probably that just everybody wins with that one. But I know, I'm thinking like, I don't know, like somebody eventually could keep tally, right? And somebody could come away with like 5 wins because, probably everybody's going to bet it crashes. But there is a probable chance that it will not crash. Like, probabilities, we have had many episodes where it does not crash.
Most episodes it doesn't crash.
Right. So, but I feel like everybody's going to vote that it will crash. So those of you who vote not crash, and then if it doesn't crash, you should get, you bet against the odds, so you should get more of a reward. So I think you have to talk amongst yourself and figure this out. Obviously, everybody should be trading in Bitcoin, and just cut me in on, just give me 5% off the top, okay? Easy. Everybody on board? And if you give me 10%, I promise not to throw and intentionally crash it or not.
What?
Yeah, as long as I get 10%. All right, ladies and gentlemen, it is the Unplugged program, and we're going to kick it off right here. And do we have a pre-show topic?
Not really.
I thought there was something that you and I were consternating about just a minute ago. I was almost positive we had something. I was almost positive, Wes. There was almost something. When remember after we ate barbecue and then our brains fell asleep? We had barbecue, and then our brains fell asleep. And we probably don't want to start the show out with the YouTube shooter. Oh, man, he's going to be known as the YouTube shooter.
You've just named him.
Mm-hmm. That's totally what he'll be called, as the YouTube shooter. Let's see.
Didn't we talk about that on User Error?
What's that?
Like them getting names and being famous.
Yeah, we did. Yeah, we did. Yeah, I feel like I probably don't want to start the show out with that, though. I need something else. I need something fun to start the show out with. This is, we blew it on this one. This is our bad.
The first 3D printed steel bridge.
Meh. I'm taking suggestions now, too, from the chat room, if anybody wants to go over there. Chat room was slow today, huh?
Yeah, what's happening?
I don't know.
Maybe they're tired.
Yeah, maybe. Or
Do
maybe
they also have barbecue? Probably.
Or everybody's following this YouTube shooter thing, I think. That could be what it is, right? Everybody's...
It's on a down note now.
Oh, what's the note? What's the latest?
Oh, I haven't... No, it just sounds like a down topic. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, I know. It is. Nobody's got nothing? All right, fine. Fine. Gonna make me do it. I'll go find something. Let's see. What we need is a Richard Stallman YouTube video. A quick Richard
Ooh,
Stallman.
That would actually be perfect.
Yeah, we need a quick Richard Stallman YouTube video. 33 seconds. That's pretty good. Is that actually Richard, though?
You see, any simple model of human nature is going to be wrong. Human nature is complex. Many emotions are possible. Many motivations are possible.
That's not bad. I don't love it because it sounds like total butt on the encoding.
Yeah, it does.
So I would like to find something else. Probably shouldn't play 10 years of Richard Stallman pedophile quotes. I wonder if are they actual quotes by Richard Stallman or somebody?
Prostitution, adultery,
Yeah, that doesn't do it for me. Richard Stallman, 6 minutes. Richard Stallman slams Apple fanboys. Richard Stallman slams Ubuntu. Richard Stallman loses it. That could be interesting.
Yeah.
Richard Stallman explains everything. Damn.
There's a lot in that one, for sure.
Proof Richard Stallman is a cuck. Okay. All right. Okay.
And the other thing is that a beginner shouldn't be installing operating systems. Go to a user group and find someone who loves installing the system to help people. I've never installed GNU/Linux. I never saw a point in learning how. I've never installed GNU/Linux.
I've never installed GNU/Linux. I never saw a point in learning how.
Okay.
YouTube is
The
just...
thing is, though, that Stallman couldn't possibly be a cuck because you need a wife and a friend to do that.
I actually thought it was going to be like a political statement.
Yeah, sure.
That's what I thought it was about.
The human mind. So
That's so far as our winner. But if anybody has a better one, please drop in the chat room. Something short, 40, 30 seconds at most. That's like a good Stallman soundbite. We could start with the free software song.
Oh, sure. Sing along, maybe? Mumble sing along.
Another Richard Stallman pedophile video. Huh. It's really a thing on there.
Apparently.
Free software examples, Richard Stallman. Let's see here. Richard Stallman explains how we can be free. It's 12 minutes. All right. Well, we're eliminating it down to two things. There's this one.
Un ritmo de 7 compases. Entonces, si les parece un poco confuso,
Yeah, he's multilingual.
no es un error. Por ejemplo, es este ritmo.
Okay.
But no big deal.
What's he doing? He's just futzing with himself.
please raise your hands if you cannot hear me. You see, if I get laughter from all around the room, then I know the system is working.
I'm pleased to welcome Richard Stallman as our speaker. Richard, or RMS, is a new project, something with the GNU, and I'm sure that will...
Out to be what? Tell us now, so Richard, please.
Rob is particular.
All right. Well, I think we're gonna have to play the other quote because all those suck. There's nobody there. There's got to be a hot market for somebody cutting up RMS quotes and putting them up on YouTube in 40-second chunks. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, maybe the problem is that you're looking on YouTube, which a platform he doesn't support. So out of respect for his
simple
beliefs,
model of human nature is going to be wrong. Human nature is complex.
I'm gonna save that here in a second. We'll play that. My Plasma desktop's all broken. Where's producer Michael? I want to blame him. I'm having massive Plasma desktop issues today. Massive. Actually, they're not massive, but they are annoying. So it'd be nice to complain.
Sound like a broken record.
Oh my God! Are you seriously gonna say XFCE? You bastard! You bastard!
Well,
I know. You might be right. God damn it! It's just I feel like at that point, I've just lost. It's like I've just given in. You know.
Come to the XFCE side.
It just feels like such a. I don't know the way.
Weren't we just in Fluxbox last week?
Yeah, that's true. I don't know. For some reason, it feels like an ultimate admission of Linux failure or something. If I have to do that, maybe if I can't get any, it's just.
How about we just straight up just run OBS from X, no other system?
I just didn't really like it the last time I used it. Maybe I would like it this time, so maybe it'd be different. It's possible. Maybe I should give it a go.
Or we could all do Wimpy a favor and use Mate.
Yeah, I have issues with. I have these same kind of weird stability issues. It's like this. One of the reasons why I have to do it here on this studio machine, even though it's kind of like the most risky machine to do it on. The thing is like it's like where it always breaks is where right here, and if I don't run it for weeks, right here, it's always fine. It's just kind of a bummer. I just was really into Plasma, and I just want it to be fine, and I'm sure it will be. And every time I bring up anything like this, what I get is, oh well, it's because of the NVIDIA proprietary driver. Which, okay, maybe that's true. I don't know.
But you want stability, right? You want something that's going to be rock solid and isn't going to change. Well, XFCE hasn't changed for about 10 years, and that's why I use it.
Well,
because it's rock solid and never changes.
I do kind of want something modern getting new features, though, that has like a good roadmap and a long-term trajectory and that kind of stuff. You know?
I think they've ported the panel to GTK 3.
Wow. Yeah, I'm using XFCE right now, but only because I joined the Ubuntu Studio development team.
How do you like it so far?
XFCE, I kind of want to change it out for Mate, and I've actually proposed that to the rest of the development team, and it's actually being received with open arms.
Yeah, it does seem like there's more of a future there.
Oh, there's definitely more of a future there, but like what you need is something that works right now.
That is true. Yeah, that is my
hackers.
It's really
true hackers.
It's been good. It's been good, but all right. Well, we're going to start out with an RMS quote, and if I don't like it, I won't use it in post. But I want to start with it because we're going to end with RMS, so it kind of seems like maybe we'll start with RMS. I figured we'd brand associate as positive Richard Stallman since Late Night Linux is now officially the Anti-Free Software Foundation Anti-RMS podcast.
I think that's appropriate. Yeah.
Anti-copyleft, anti-GNU.
Yeah. Although Wes and I were listening to Late Night Linux, we didn't get all the way through it yet, though. But we were listening after we got done with TechSnap today.
Pairs well with barbecue.
It does. We ate it with barbecue, and we listened to Late Night Linux.
Yeah, big changes happening.
Yeah, for sure. Although I think long term it's going to be good stuff, and
exciting.
Yeah, it should be. It's always kind of nice.
Hopefully.
Let's see. So there's
He's so pretty.
He's got quite the beard. All right, chat room, please bang suggest Aru, and ND, you could always check out, those are all good suggestions. Also, IRC Cloud, I've been plugging a lot recently for no particularly good reason. Okay, Richard Stallman, ins the threes, ins the twos, ins the threes, the twos, the ones.
You see, any simple model of human nature is going to be wrong. Human nature is complex. Many emotions are possible. Many motivations are possible in the human mind. So, a simplistic motivation a simplistic model of human nature. Humans are motivated by profit. It's absurd. I'm not denying that motivation exists, but they are denying all the others.
This is Linux Unplugged, episode 243. Oh, welcome to Linux Unplugged, your weekly Linux talk show that was just listening to some wise words, some wise words of RMS, something like that, mixing its words up apparently before the show starts. My name somehow is still Chris.
My name is Wes, at least I think.
Hello, Wes. I hope so.
I hope so too.
You'll keep us grounded today while we rush through what is undoubtedly a huge show. Huge show. We've got some big news up front, big changes coming on a couple of different fronts. Some nice new features arriving as well, so we'll talk about all of that across a couple of different distributions and software projects. And then a new version of Qubes OS is out. We'll tell you a little bit about that. Wes found a super cool geeky tool that really gives you a great visualization of what the heck is going on all across your system, like the inter-process communication. So, after that, we're just going to pick up, walk away, and we'll be done. We'll be done. We got nothing else. We just figured that was enough.
That's so much.
Wait, what? Oh, hold on. Last minute incoming memo. No, that's not it. There's more show after that. After that, we'll look at a new proposal by Richard Stallman, a radical proposal, as he titles it, to keep our personal data safe. And he makes a really good point. In his article, he goes hard, too. He says the surveillance imposed on society today far exceeds that of the Soviet Union. For freedom and democracy's sake, we have to eliminate, or we need to eliminate, most of it. And then he lays out a couple of semi-solid ideas. And this ran in the Guardian section, in the Guardian's opinion section today. And it was interesting to read RMS. He had a really, what's the way to put this? The most centrist position I've seen him take on a subject like this in a really long time. Like just a really solid take on and some actual practical ideas that we could implement today. Although I don't know if we'd ever really see that. I'm not sure.
Yeah, we'll see.
Well, I'm just a hot mess today, Wes. So let's see if that mumble room can't save me. Time appropriate greetings, Virtual Lug.
Hey.
Hello.
Hello. I don't know what any of that was, but I loved all of it. Hello, guys. How are you doing today? We have a good showing. Wimpy, it's good to see you back.
Hello.
Hello, sir. Good to have you as always. Guys, what do you say we start the show out today with a little Valve news? We haven't talked about Valve in a little while. Cue the Valve.
Oh, there it is. Yep. Ooh, sends shivers down my spine every time.
I don't think this move surprises anyone, but it appears that Steam machines are just silently disappearing from the Valve website. Yeah, Liam over at GamingOnLinux.com has this. He says, in fact, the entire hardware page on Steam is now gone. And anyone that goes to the direct link, the store.steampower.com/hardware, is just redirected to a basic search page. And it looks like when he did some digging, it must have rolled through earlier this month. You know, when I was down at Dell, I kind of got a cold read on the future. They weren't sure. They thought maybe VR and 4K would push it over, but I don't think there's been a huge demand on Steam machines for VR. And that's sort of what they were banking on to bring them to the next level and be competitive with consoles. That was going to be their secret sauce. And it didn't materialize. You know, and even now, like Liam makes the point, there's now over 4,000 Linux games on Steam, with more releasing every single day. Of course, a lot of them are junk, but that just how it always goes. Some of them are great too. I gotta be honest. I think I bought into the hype pretty big back in the day when these things were first announced, because if you remember, it was a hype sandwich. It had Windows Store momentum that was freaking out Valve and Epic and other game developers. And then you had the whole layer, the tasty layer of the Steam client getting developed and created for Linux. And then the finish at the bottom there was the nice savory fact that then they were going to ship purpose-built hardware to run Steam, and they were going to create their own Linux distribution. And I mean, how could I not get excited about that? That's some exciting shit. The reality is, though, that consoles have really not changed much since they launched the market. Microsoft and Sony and Nintendo have continued to lock that market up. Console gamers seem to be a different type of gamer than PC gamers to a large extent. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. I mean, I'm not a big gamer, but it seems to be that the markets aren't. Maybe there's not a big crossover there.
Right, and there hasn't been a huge amount of radical change either. You know, that would naturally lead to a new contender coming in.
Yeah, I know maybe this is just them redoing stuff, but I don't know. Anybody in the mumble room have any takes on Valve pulling down the Steam machines off of the website? Is this a sign that things are over?
Bit. Yeah, I think a lot of it has to do with the very successful Steam Link, because you can then just use your regular PC across the network, plug it into your TV, and boom, there's your console.
I can 100% see that. Yep. Yeah, the Steam Link and the Steam controller have been the successful byproducts of that experiment.
Very much so, yeah.
And
exactly, as a proud owner, I'm like, yeah, that's it. That's got to be it.
And it makes sense. Then you invest once in a really nice graphics card and a really nice desktop PC, and then you can stream it to multiple televisions. And it actually works. You know, I've got one. I've only used it a little bit, but I was impressed. It actually works. And NVIDIA's got something similar that's built into the NVIDIA Shield. You can do the same thing to the NVIDIA Shield TV if you have a Windows box.
Right.
So there you go. I don't know. All right, how about a mystery? You guys want a little mystery? And Bacon points out in the chat room, Cheese Bacon points out that the Moonlight Project, which lets you just use a Raspberry Pi. Because remember, it's an H.264 stream here. All right, how about this one? What do you guys make of this? What is going on? Apple, for unknown reasons, is looking to hire multiple Linux kernel developers in both Texas and in California.
Is that right?
Yeah, they specifically are looking for people with Linux kernel development experience and someone with 5+ years of embedded Linux kernel development experience in understanding of the Linux kernel internals, familiarity with ARM, and Linux kernel device driver development experience.
Odd.
In Cupertino and in Texas, in Tejas. I'm not sure. I don't know, where is there? It doesn't say what town in Tejas, but Austin. Yeah. What is that about?
So it doesn't necessarily seem like it seems device oriented or something on the embedded space, if not, not their server. Like if server stuff maybe would make more sense.
Yeah.
But this.
It's just weird when it's paired at that same time. Those rumors going around that they're switching CPUs. They're going to ARM. But if you're in the Austin area or the Cupertino area, you might want to get a gig because they, probably pay pretty decent, and could just be for building custom systems in their data centers. It could be.
Could be.
ARM embedded. Yeah. And so I did a little digging to see if this is the first time they've ever done this, and it is not. It is not. This has been going on. I found 2 other job postings this year where they were looking for potential employees with Linux development experience. And everything from Linux file systems was one of the requirements, familiarity with Linux file systems. It could just be that they are looking to make their products better. And so they want to hire somebody that is working on a superior built system. I mean, you know what I'm saying? I mean, I'm not
That's
trying
a
to
punch to the gut there. I'm not a big fan of their kernel, eh, Chris?
No, well, who knows? Who am I to say? But you got to wonder if it's not a good way to vet a better developer from a less better developer. Just take a risk on somebody that has some kernel experience. You probably a good chance they know what they're doing.
Yeah, and probably have some easy to vet open source contributions there.
Exactly. So anyways, isn't that weird? It's been going around. In 2 different locations too. So I mentioned some new features this week. Well, check this out. My hot little hands here. I have some notes about a new release of Snappy, which supports NVIDIA drivers, and it will be shipping in Ubuntu 18.04 LTS. Apparently, this is all part of Snap 2.32.2, which is available for download now and runs on all Snappy-enabled GNU/Linux distributions. Now, I could sit here and tell you about it, but I probably would be doing a disservice when we could just ask Mr. Wimpy kind of the details about this. But, Wimpy, if I'm grokking this story, it looks like snapped applications can now take advantage of the binary NVIDIA driver for full acceleration, and maybe even CUDA? I don't know how deep it goes, but what's the details?
Well, this isn't something new. This is just a change to accommodate the NVIDIA 390 drivers.
Oh, I see. So this has already been possible.
Oh yeah, this has been there for some time now.
News to me.
But yeah, okay. So it's been around for a while. So when you install games like what's the Mario Kart thing, Super Tux Kart, there's a snap of that. That's obviously using all of that stuff already. But the 390 drivers have a different layout and structure and different shared object names, and the confinement model needed to be updated to support those new drivers.
Anything in particular that I'd find interesting? So what did NVIDIA do with the 390 release that... Because I assume the trick is talking outside the sandbox. Is that what has to be sort of shored up? Is that capability?
Yeah, it's passing through to the drivers on the host operating system, and the location of the shared objects have changed in some cases, so they didn't hook up properly, but they do now.
And that'll be in 18.04 when it ships.
It's already in 18.04, and it's making its way to the other flavors, the other releases in due course.
Looks like there are some improvements to temporary files with AppArmor as well with Snap D, so that looks good. I gotta say, and this is me saying this, and I'm not saying it because Wimpy's here. Seeing now Popey too. Hi, Popey. Seeing a lot of good pickups of snaps. It feels like
momentum.
Mm-hmm. Flatpak's got some pickups this week too, but I really feel like snaps have maintained a pretty strong trajectory.
Hey, Chris.
Yes, sir.
While you're on that trip, I've got a great snap for you.
Oh yeah, tell me about it.
CoinTop. Snap install CoinTop.
All right,
you will totally love this. This is completely up your alley. You will love this.
We'll do it live.
Snap install CoinTop and then just run CoinTop.
All right, I'm snap installing right now.
It's an HTOP style interface to cryptocurrency.
I knew you were going to say that. I love it. I already love it so much. That's great. And of course, you would be the person to know about this, Snab. I know this is an area that you. Oh, this is.
Look
I have my
at
finger on
that.
the pulse of this, of course.
Yeah,
Yes.
This
Popey is your go-to guy for cryptocurrency.
As always.
And all of your VR inquiries should come to me.
Guys, this is so cool. All right, everybody, go snap install CoinTop, because the part that really sells it for me is the ticker graph along the top. When you can generate a graph like that on a command line application, that deserves an install.
You put in some love there.
So gives you the top 13, at least in how many I can fit. I suppose if I were to make my
Just page down, left
Yeah,
and right.
there you
pages
go.
Up and down.
There you
Just
go.
through all of them.
Oh yeah, there we go.
And
Oh,
the letters at the top of the columns will sort the columns and all that. It's brilliant.
Nanocoin, huh? Interesting. Wow, there's more coins these days than I would know what to do with. That is a great app. That is, thanks. Little bonus app pick there from Mr. Popey. Appreciate that. I guess what I thought was a great development for Snaps is just business as usual and keeping things moving along. And which is also good. It's good not to have those kinds of things break. Well, while we're talking about really cool apps, Wes found LSOF2 Graph Viz. Now, LSOF, as you know, lists all of the open files on your Linux rig. And that's cool, but what if you could graph it all? And it looks so neat. I did it here on my Plasma Neon box, and it's really cool. Like, I actually forgot that I had Postgres running, so you can see if you ran it on yours, you'd see all the different processes and which ones are communicating to which over like a loopback adapter. You can see that systemd literally has its hooks into like a bajillion things. It's really kind of intense. And I also realize how many applications on my machine have a back-end front-end arrangement, like Spotify and a bunch of others that have a back-end listening process. And it visualizes those links between those processes.
Yeah, it's a fascinating look that, I mean, you can obviously piece together through various other options, but especially maybe if you're interrogating a system you're not too familiar with or you're trying to do an audit, this is a helpful overview.
Yeah, it was, well, I guess, oh yeah, Postgres. I forgot I did that before a show one time. And you have to have Lua installed, and you have to have GraphViz installed. And if you're on 1604 and you install Lua 5.3, the package maintainer didn't set up a symbolic link, so you have to symbolically link user bin Lua 5.3 to user bin Lua. But once you do those things, it generates a nice, pretty graph for you.
It sure does.
And we'll have a link in the show notes if you want to see that. New show notes too. Got to mention this. I got to be better about this because I'm still getting tweets from people. They don't know. They don't know that we have LinuxUnplugged.com now.
Ooh,
yeah,
that's
Linux
so shiny.
Yeah, if you go to LinuxUnplugged.com/243, you get links to anything, any apps we talked about, anything like that. Just Linux Unplugged. I'm doing it right now. You can do it with me. LinuxUnplugged.com/243. Boom. Of course, as we do this show, it's not posted yet, but after it's posted, it'll be live. That's the new website. A new RSS feed there too. LinuxUnplugged.com/RSS if you want to plug that in your podcast catcher of choice. And if you've got one of those podcast catchers that supports chapter markers, check those out too. And while I'm talking about chapter markers, I'll give a plug to User Error this week. It's back, episode 47, with Noah, myself, and Joe's on there. Joe Resington joins us for, I thought, a particularly good episode of the User Error program, also with chapter markers. Boom. Boom. Got the chapter markers everywhere. So if you got a podcast catcher that supports them, go take advantage of that. Let's take a moment and let's thank Ting for sponsoring the Unplugged program. Linux.ting.com. I could tell you about Ting, but it's been a while since we've heard from Kyra. So let's have Kyra do it. What do you say? You want to
do it?
All right, Kyra, tell me about Ting.
Ting keeps rates simple. We don't make you pick a plan. Instead, you just use your phone as you normally would. How much you use determines how much you pay each month. You can have as many devices as you want on one account. That's good, because when you use more, you pay less per minute, message, or megabyte of data. Your usage, plus $6 per active device on your account, plus taxes, is your monthly bill. Simple. That's what we mean when we say mobile. That makes sense.
Yeah, it's better than unlimited because you have to pay a lot of money for unlimited, but with Ting, you just pay for what you use. $6 a month, your minutes, your messages, and your megabytes. Nationwide coverage, CDMA and GSM. No contracts, no agreements, no early termination fees, none of that, plus great customer service. Those are all the extra things I like to mention that she couldn't fit into that jazzy tune. But check it out, linux.ting.com. It'll take $25 off a device, or if you just want to bring one that's compatible, because they do have the two networks, so check their BYOD page. then they'll give you $25 in service credit. Linux.ting.com. And a big thank you to Ting for sponsoring the Unplugged program. Linux.ting.com. So there's just one story that's gotten a lot of attention this week, and it's a total non-story. So we're gonna razz it here a little bit. We're gonna take a piss, I believe, as our friends from across the pond would say. Hey, hello, Dan. I'm glad you made it, because guess what? A Juno progress update is our next story. So I'm glad you could make it into the show today, Mr. Foray. Yeah. So let's talk about this. Let's talk about this hype story, though. The Linux kernel is cutting its code size by 500,000 lines of code by dropping support for old CPU architectures. And I know a lot of you, did your ears perk up and go, does that mean 32-bit? Does that mean 32-bit? Does that mean PowerPC? What does that mean? No, it's nothing like that. It's like these crazy ones like MetTag, MN1030, Backflin. There's a Chris CPU architecture.
Oh, don't cut that one.
They're gonna. And the Unicord 32, it's gone. Also, Hexagon architectures are out, but their maintainers are trying to step up their contributions, so they may keep it. But they say killing off support for these different architectures that aren't really used anymore is beneficial for lots of reasons. Number one, it'll reduce the attack surface of the kernel, and it also just reduces the damn size of the kernel, which is particularly nice. And although many of us have fond memories of working on these old systems, it is time to move on. And out with the old, in with the new. Got to get all those new ARM processor and phone supports in there after all.
Yeah, it looks like that'll be about a little under 2.5% reduction.
No kidding.
It's not too
bad. Did you just do a little quick math over there?
Quick math.
I heard you quick math in it over there. You're on a roll today. Wes also spun up a server app pick we're going to be talking about later in the show. During the intro of the show, I think you spun that up. You maniac. All right, so Daniel Foray from Elementary OS is here, and his timing is great because I want to talk about the slow and steady march towards Juno. Now, Juno is the next release of Elementary OS, which will be based on 1804 LTS of Ubuntu, and lots of new things are coming. We've been kind of covering this as it gets here, and a new post went up. And you guys have a feature that I'll say is inspired by Unity that was one of the best new user Unity features. So why don't we start there, Dan?
Yeah, so a couple of the things we've been looking at with this release especially is kind of user feedback and figuring out what do people feel like is missing, or what are people saying that maybe Elementary OS can't do right now, and kind of showing them how they can do it. And so this is, I think, one of the great ways that Unity showed them how you can use keyboard shortcuts there. And so we said, hey, this is a great idea. Let's implement it.
So you mash down the super key, essentially, and if you hold it long enough, a pop-up comes up with an overview of the keyboard shortcuts that the end user might want to cycle through a window or switch workspaces or take a screenshot or even zoom an application in. And but then you guys went further than that. You can also remap what that super key goes to, yeah? Like you can change the mash behavior.
Yeah, so we set that up because we know that people have different expectations of what they want the super key to be. So we figured, the first try we're going to have it pop up the keyboard shortcuts to show them, this is what we set it up as default. But then you have a quick shortcut that'll put you right into shortcut settings, and you can have it show instead the applications menu, or you can just have it do nothing if it's getting in your way.
Looks like, while we're talking about system settings, the Bluetooth menu got reworked quite a bit. New device discovery seems a little different. And is this essentially moving away from like the GNOME tools and rolling your own Bluetooth stuff here with the management aspect?
Right. So one of the things that we have to kind of work with in a new release is changes that Upstreams have made. And the GNOME Bluetooth wizard has actually been deprecated upstream for a really long time. And so we've kind of finally moved away from that and have more of our own tools.
Wow. It looks nice and clean, as it always does. It almost goes without saying these days that it always looks nice and clean. Okay.
Thanks.
So the one thing that I wasn't clear on is you guys have GeoClue, a GeoClue API that developers that are creating applications for Elementary OS can use to ascertain the user's location, and that's controllable by the end user. So what's new with Juno? Because that's already existed, correct?
Right. So we had the GeoClue API in before, but there were some big problems. One was that we didn't have any documentation available for it on Voladoc. Another was that you had to ship a custom vAPI file with your app to actually use it. So that was kind of inconvenient, and you have to know how to do that. And then another big issue we had is there was no real incentive for developers or users to care about this API because they had no kind of control or interaction with it.
Well, and now it's like even more like what the part I didn't quite grok was like now it's like down to the nearest town, or like you can get more fine grained of how close it gets for the user.
What we do is that now when an app wants to get your location through GeoClue, we throw up a little alert dialog and we ask you permission, and then we let you know what kind of accuracy that the app is requesting, so you can know.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Right. So if you have an app that should only be requesting country level, but it's requesting street level, you can say, "Hey, no, like I don't want to do that."
That's slick. Well, so that's those are the things that jumped out at me. Is there any other things anything I missed, or anything you want to mention?
Yeah, I mean, we've been trying to look at some things that our users have been asking for, and one of the big ones is some more changes to code.
The editor.
There was recently a poll in the Vala Google Plus community that said that more people are using elementary code to write Vala apps than gedit and GNOME Builder combined.
Wow.
Huh.
Yeah, so we're really going hard on trying to make this a great code editor.
Yeah.
We've added a new fast style scheme switcher, so you can easily go into dark mode with Solarize Dark or light mode with Solarize Light, and that's just a one-button click back and forth.
I like that. Yeah, I see that. This is one of these. I don't have I ever. Wasn't this renamed? Like this is. I knew this by another name before, didn't I? Before it became code.
Yeah. So in Elementary OS Loki, we shipped it as Scratch. And
that's it.
This is a total rebranding.
Okay. Well, dang, it looks great. And so now it's called Code, and that was formerly the artist formerly known as Scratch. Okay.
Right.
Dang. And those are just the things you're talking about at this point. Just the things.
Yeah.
There were some App Center updates as well, some changing over, like going from updates to installed, and a few other like tightening up of the UI there. It's good stuff, Dan. It's good stuff. So when do I get it? When do I get it, Dan? Dan, when do I get it? Dan, can I have it now, Dan? Dan, when do I get it? Can I try a beta, Dan? Dan, when do I get it? Dan, I want it now.
So we're trying really hard to get to the point where we can release a public beta. What we're doing right now is we're trying to track any regressions from the old version and make sure that we fix those up and things are ready for our developers to get their applications ready to ship in App Center, and for translators to go in. And so we have to hit a string freeze so the translators can go in and do all their stuff before release time.
Very good. Well, I'll wait patiently then, I suppose, because it just takes its time, is what you're saying.
Yeah. So Ubuntu though is going final beta though, right? So as far as upstreams are that's tracking nicely. So that'll save us and let us focus in on just kind of cleaning up and then getting ready to roll that beta out like real soon.
Ooh. All right.
I'm excited.
Well, thanks for coming by and giving us an update. I like that you guys are keeping us posted. It helps build the hype, and that's always appreciated. It's always fun to get excited about a new release.
Yeah, trying to. Definitely tune into our blog because we're posting stuff all the time about what we're working on.
Boom. We'll have a link to that in the show notes as well. How about just a quick shout out to the GNU Cache project, because I don't think we've ever mentioned them on the show, and they just reached a major milestone. Version 3.0 has been released, and it finally has been moved over to GTK3.
Nice.
Yeah. And, I think that's probably taken them quite a bit of work to get there. So I thought it was worth celebrating. Even though we've never really mentioned the show, it's one of those boring, just get work done tools. But it is kind of great.
Yeah, I mean, for double entry, simple double entry accounting stuff, works pretty nicely.
It looks like they've added support for some online service APIs too.
Oh, that's handy.
So it could be, and some improvements to the SQL database backend stuff. So GNU Cache 3.0 with GTK3 now baked in.
Check it out.
Yeah, I guess so. I don't know. I don't think I've probably launched GNU Cache in years. All right, we do have a new Cubes OS. Anybody in the mumble room a Cubes OS user? Anybody? I thought we had somebody at one point.
Come back to us.
Everybody switched over to Elementary OS, I guess.
Oh, it's so flashy.
Yeah. All right, well, we'll talk about Cubes OS then. So, Cubes OS is, you know what? Actually, before we go to Cubes OS, let's take a moment and let's mention. While we plugged User Air. I'll also mention, check out this week's Late Night Linux that just came out. It's Ike's last episode, and they have Graham on from Linux Voice and talk about some of their future plans, so go check out that. It was a pretty great episode. And then also, I think we mentioned it once before, but one more plug skis. The Ubuntu podcast is back from their season break. They recently had a great interview.
Yeah, we are.
Fantastic.
Congratulations, guys. It's good to have you back. And so Ubuntu podcast is definitely worth checking out. And you know, I might as well, if we're doing this, I'll throw a plug in there for TechSnap, techsnap.systems. Wes is going to do a breakdown of a super cool open source tool called Terraform. And we'll be covering that in this week's episode that'll be coming out on Thursday.
Lots of fun.
Yeah, so there you go. I just wanted to mention a few of those things because there's a lot of really cool stuff going on out there right now. Speaking of cool stuff, how about DigitalOcean?
Oh, yeah.
You know I'm all about it. Go to do.co/unplugged and get a $100 credit. If you have a new account and you have a legitimate credit card on file, you can get a $100 credit at DigitalOcean. This is secure, reliable, predictable pricing, super easy, infrastructure at scale, and they now have flexible droplets. You can mix and match the resources that are most appropriate for your application. do.co/action. You know, I've told you so much about DigitalOcean. Wouldn't it be good? Wouldn't it be good to hear from somebody else, Wes, for once?
Please.
DigitalOcean's cloud computing platform was designed with simplicity in mind, giving development teams the ability to easily manage infrastructure. That's why thousands of businesses around the world are building, deploying, and scaling their applications faster and more efficiently on DigitalOcean. Using our simple control panel or API, you and your team can seamlessly go from deploying to scaling highly available web, mobile, PaaS, DBaaS, or machine learning applications. In just a matter of seconds, quickly set up one to thousands of virtual machines, easily secure servers and enable performance monitoring, and effortlessly attach more storage. Plus, you'll always know exactly what you'll be paying every month with a predictable flat pricing structure across all global data center regions. By using DigitalOcean, you'll get the infrastructure experience that development teams love with the features your business needs. Sign up for DigitalOcean today and experience simplicity at scale.
Oh, do.co/unplugged. do.co/unplugged. I don't know, Wes. All of a sudden I decided to make it a theme. I'd have other people do the ad read this week.
It's way easier. And there's less of a chance that you will mispronounce something.
Why didn't I?
So it's the best of both worlds, really.
Why didn't I think of it before? Fair enough. All right, so back to Cubes OS. That was a fun diversion. You know, sometimes you got to pet the dog, you know?
Sure thing.
Sometimes.
Keep him happy.
Yeah. Cubes OS 4.0 is out after nearly 2 years in development, countless hours of testing. You and I did mention it recently. It's got a new admin API, a brand new core stack, fully virtualized VMs for enhanced security, multiple flexible, disposable VM templates that can be spun up immediately, a brand new RPC policy system, a powerful new VM volume manager that makes it easy to keep different VMs on external drives.
That's
and
super cool.
Says, hey, get this drive, plug it in, let's go. New template system and a rewritten command line interface. That's like a lot of stuff. And I think the virtualization changes stuff has been huge in this version of Cubes OS. So big congratulations to Cubes OS for the brand new release. I don't really, you know, like I know that the Purism laptops are going to be shipping with Cubes OS. I don't personally have a use for it yet, but it is very cool. The idea is that you run everything in its own isolated VM. So you have a web browser VM, you have a chat VM, you have an IRC VM. Like you have all these VMs on your system, and there is some resource sharing they do, so it's not like it's massively
right.
But the idea is that then everything has its own independent stack, and then as long as your virtualizer is secure, then your applications are isolated and secure. It's like containers. Who needs that, right?
Yeah, we already have virtual machines.
And it's interesting to watch Cubes sort of respond in now a container world, because Cubes has been around for a long time, since before Docker was really, a common idea. And so they've sort of had to watch the market move around them a little bit, and they've had to adapt to that. And I think this release reflects that.
Yeah, it's impressive that, you know, despite I certainly don't use it very, very much either, though this is making me want to give it a spin one of these upcoming weeks.
You know,
But they have a lot of momentum going for themselves and making constant improvements.
Yep, exactly. And we're going to talk a little bit about Richard Stallman's post here in a bit. And I think maybe we could revisit that then.
Oh, yeah.
You know, that security kind of stuff. But yeah, maybe one of these days, Wes. Maybe one of these days. We're avoiding the whole challenges thing for a while. One of these days, we could do like a Cubes OS week or something.
Oh, that could be fun.
Especially if we could run on our laptops.
Mhm.
You know, but we both put it on the laptop and we work out of that for a week.
See what it's like. Really get an appreciation for that workflow.
Would it be doable? I wonder if people might be listening that do this all the time and might just think it's not that big of a deal. I don't know. Okay, well, let's do a little app pick here. It's kind of a server-side app pick, and it's something that Wes got set up, like I said, during the intro. I've been thinking a lot recently about Discord versus IRC. As some of you guys know, we did a poll in the show, and it was pretty much universally IRC that won. And I was trying to break down, like, well, what is this about? And a lot of people said, well, you know, IRC isn't a cloud service. IRC is, you know, it's the open source way. Like, there's all these different reasons that people had, and none of it totally clicked with me because, you know, the IRC system that most people use, like Freenode or like GeekShed in our case, is hosted by someone else on their computer. It's kind of technically a cloud service. It's just a cloud service that we didn't call cloud services back in the day. It's just a server you connected to. But if IRC were to launch today, that would be considered a cloud service. And so I didn't really buy the argument that moving away from Discord got us off the cloud or something like that. But you can't argue that one thing you can do with IRC that you can't do with Discord is you can truly brew your own IRC server, roll it yourself if you want.
Definitely.
And that kind of got me down this path of like, what other things do we commonly now use as hosted services that we could quickly and easily re-implement for ourselves if we didn't need something huge and large scale. Maybe you don't need a Freenode scale IRC system. Maybe you don't even need something as large as what Jupiter Broadcasting needs. 20, 30, 40 people in an IRC room, nothing massive. Do you really have to, how many hoops do you have to go through to just do this yourself?
Right. Maybe you just need a private server, you know, behind closed doors to orchestrate a couple things.
So how easy is it? Well, Wes found Oregano. Oregano is a modern experimental IRC server written in Go. Yeah, you've guessed it was either going to be Go or Rust, didn't you? It's designed to be simple to set up and use, and it includes features such as UTF-8 NICs, channel names, client accounts with SASL, and IRC v3 support. And you got up and running on your laptop there.
Actually, it's running up on a DigitalOcean droplet.
Of course. I should have known. What is your initial impressions on the difficulty to set it up and all that kind of stuff?
Oh, it was quite easy. They've got releases available. There's also looks like it's in the AUR as well if you want to give it a go that way. But really, you just go to the release pages on their GitHub, download it, extract a tarball. They've got a couple commands you can run to set up the certs and set up a DB, and then away you go. I've posted an IP there in the IRC for our live listeners.
Cool.
You guys can go check in, start chatting. There's a hashtag JB channel right now.
I found a couple of things about it that I liked. It's got native support for TLS SSL. It's got YAML configuration files that are easy to read. Passwords are stored in bcrypt and are also salted, which I like all those things. And it, at least from your description, seems to be easy to set up. So if you wanted to, if you did want to take this under your own control and you didn't need something large scale, I mean, I don't know. I'm not trying to say what this can or can't scale up to, but I think a lot of times we get sort of carried away when we try to say we're going to replace Google or we're going to replace Discord, and we try to replace it with something at their scale. It's just not possible. But we don't all need that scale. And this is an example of an application that you just put on a VPS in a couple of minutes that if you wanted to, everyone at work in your office could be using this.
Yeah, no, I don't think that would work just fine.
Yeah, and then maybe you wouldn't need Slack. And if it doesn't take hours to get it set up and secured, if it can be as simple as, I mean, how many minutes did it take you? 5-10 minutes?
Less than that, yeah. 3 minutes? I don't know.
Because one of the appeals of Slack is when you just want to create a Slack group, you just go click a button, put a name in there, and start inviting people, and you're good to go. Well, this isn't that much longer. It's something you control, and there was just that creepy story about Slack giving access to your direct messages to management. And, this doesn't have those problems, and anybody using any old IRC client can use it. That's pretty cool. And then if you want cloud support, you combine it with something like IRC Cloud.
Yeah, right. There you go. You have a layered solution.
Yeah. It's pretty neat, huh? Yeah, it's
simple, no nonsense. I don't know that it's as configurable as some of the, standard IRC servers, but you might not need that, right? Like, especially maybe you just are using it to transfer data or automate some bots and processes around the office.
This could be cool too. Like, you just need to spin it up during an event, right? You use it
to
like coordinate during an event or something like that, and then when the event's over, you spin it down.
You just turn it right off.
Yeah. So, anyways, that's called Oregano, and we will have a link to it in the show notes. And it looks like they also have a couple of different test servers that are always running that you can check out as well. Levi's here to check it out. Levi says he approves of it. Don't you, Levi? Yeah, Levi, the studio dog. He likes oregano. He probably does, actually.
He probably does.
He probably does.
Get out of there.
Do you have any use for your own IRC server? I don't really. I mean, what I want, because we can sometimes have hundreds of people in there, I just don't think I'd want to use something like this.
Right. And I mean, it kind of makes sense as part of the business to have not really our special sauce to host our own IRC server. So, but I don't know that I need one, but I could see it if maybe you've already written some IRC bots or you're just like a small office of tech savvy people and you just need somewhere to store your chat logs and make async communication and other things easier.
Maybe you're doing a podcast.
Maybe you're doing a podcast.
You got a podcast with a few dozen people watching live. I mean, like right now, there's probably not so many people in the chat room that we couldn't host all these people on it.
I'm sure. We could even give it a shot.
Yeah. Well, some of them may be right now. You have people logging in?
Yeah, looks like we got a couple people checking it out. Eric, TechMav,
Eric, you got in there?
I got in there. Yeah,
nice.
Sure did.
Good. Have fun. That's nice.
It's really fast.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, this is just running on the baseline DO droplet. So.
Yeah. Well, there you go. And now you're off to running your own infrastructure, Wes. You didn't even have to use Terraform.
And I did not.
One. Yeah. Well, that's pretty cool. If you have any other kind of really nice self-hosted services that something that we haven't really talked a lot about before, because we've done the Nextcloud thing, we've done all that. But
I could also see this being helpful maybe if you're just trying to learn to write an IRC implementation or something. You want something to either see the source or just hack against locally, running it there, writing your client to attach to. That could be easy too.
Yeah. Let us know what else you've been self-hosting or would like to see us attempt. Go to linuxunplug.com/contact and put it in there, because I think it's not that we have to be all anti-hosted services, but I think that if we can opt to use something like this from time to time, it sort of forces the rest of the industry, the software ecosystem, to still support it. So I'm always a big fan of that. And we're going to get into Richard Stallman. This is kind of a good segue, actually. He wrote a post over at The Guardian, and he calls it a radical proposal to keep your personal data safe. And he really does. I'll just kind of read it, and then we can talk about it, because he does a good job of sort of illustrating a couple of points that maybe could be practical, could possibly work. Maybe we'll discuss that, because I think that's sort of the question. But he writes, journalists have been asking me whether the revolution against the abuse of Facebook data could be a turning point for the campaign to recover privacy. He says that could happen if the public makes a campaign for a broader and deeper push. Broader meaning extending to all surveillance systems, not just Facebook. Deeper meaning to advance from regulating the use of data to regulating the accumulation of data. Because surveillance is so pervasive, restoring privacy is necessarily a big change and requires powerful measures. The surveillance imposed on us today far exceeds that of the Soviet Union. For freedom and democracy's sake, we need to eliminate most of it. There are so many ways to use data to hurt people that the only safe database is the one that was never collected. Thus, instead of the EU's approach to mainly regulating how personal data may be used with its General Data Protection Regulation, or GDPR, I propose a law to stop systems from collecting personal data. He means altogether. And the most robust way to do that, the way that can't be set aside at the whim of a government, is to require systems to be built so as not to collect data about a person. The basic principle is that a system must be designed not to collect certain data if its basic function can be carried out without that data. So we have to start designing systems in a way that they just simply don't collect data, because the temptation to have data because the temptation to have data is so high.
It really is.
Now, is that practical, though? He talks about the Transport for London digital card payment system that records the trips, the cameras that record your entry to the system when you go down there. He says that we'd have to redesign security systems in a way in the public where they don't constantly record everything. that the recordings would be local recordings that could be checked in the next few weeks if a crime were to occur, but should not allow remote viewing without physical collection of the recording. Biometric systems should be designed so that they only recognize people on a court-ordered list of suspects to respect the privacy of the rest of us. An unjust state is more dangerous than terrorism, and too much security encourages an unjust state. So his argument there for the security cameras is local SD recordings, basically, and then the Popo go in and recover the recordings within a few weeks if there's an emergency. But maybe like every 90 days or whatever, the cameras wipe themselves or just start overwriting themselves. And same with like payment systems and whatnot. Is that practical? Let's take that one first. Like, could we? Because if you think about this, we have such a massive problem that we're facing now. Even Stallman in here feels a little defeatist. He comes across a bit defeatist.
He does, yeah, right?
Yeah, he talks about how people don't care enough and about how the only way it's going to change is people care, but people don't care.
So that was going to be my question to you in your prompt. What do you mean by practical? Because obviously, I think in many ways, technically, yes, right? But I think he is somewhat correct in identifying a lot of the reasons, both from the law enforcement side, right? More data means faster actions, maybe or arguably better public safety, perhaps not, but that's the case. And from the business side, more data is more features. And a lot of times those frills, right? A lot of times, even when we're talking about hosted versus self-hosting, those frills are that extra little stuff at the end that really makes the difference and that users really like, even if they're not central to the feature.
Yeah, he argues that additional services could be offered separately to users who actually request and want them. And even better, those users could use their own personal systems to track their own journeys if they wanted or something like that. Like, so the tracking stuff could be additive instead of built in.
The other hard part, I think, is that a lot of times these in the small, they make sense, right? You're like, oh yeah, I do want to see all my past trips on the tube or whatever. And it's only in the aggregate when it's this large, once it's become this large collection that it becomes creepy and, complete surveillance.
Yeah, I mean, let's be honest. We have so many different things that are monitoring our activity now. We have data brokers, you have credit monitoring agencies, you have things like MoviePass that are trying to construct a night out at the movies where they track all of your location. And there's a lot of companies that are in this business now. I mean, Facebook and Google are maybe the most prevalent offenders that we talk about, but there's so much other stuff. And so what Stallman is essentially suggesting, and maybe this is the core thing I'd like to bounce around with you and the Mumble Room, is it possible to design these systems just in a way, like can we say they just by default don't collect information? Can we do that? Is that accomplishable? And why wouldn't that work? And I think about it too from like a system administration management standpoint. Think about that for a moment. Could we do that? Could you build a system in a way where it's not collecting metrics, it's not collecting information and usage? I don't know. So let's discuss that next. But first, linuxacademy.com/unplugged. Go there to sign up for a free 7-day trial, and you support this here darn show. linuxacademy.com/unplugged. I am so tempted to play the clip just to keep with our theme, but I'm not going to do it. I'm going to change it up from what you expect, and I'm going to tell you just go over there yourself because it is great. linuxacademy.com/unplugged. That's where you go to sign up for a free 7-day trial and support the show. Try out their self-paced, in-depth video courses on every Linux, cloud, and DevOps topic. They have a course scheduler to work with you if you're busy, and they have Learning Paths, which are a series of courses and content that's been planned by their instructors for a specific career track. That's awesome. And then you combine that when you're ready to go get your certs. They have practice quizzes to help sort of get you ready, and they have courses that are created specifically to prepare you for those exams, and flashcards which are forked by the community to help you study. So it's a system to help you get through this. It's exactly the kind of support I could have used. And then the thing that really benefits for somebody like me is these hands-on labs. They spin these servers up. It doesn't matter what you're learning. You pick the distribution with your courseware. The courseware matches it. The virtual machine, they'll spin them up. They even have some systems for AWS when you're learning that. And they have all kinds of great resources available to you, including study guides, lesson audio, personal notebooks that you can take with you offline, iOS and Android apps. Why not quiz yourself? And they have added offline support on the iOS and Android app for the quizzes. And you can cache the lessons.
Ooh,
yeah.
That's perfect for travel or just taking a break at the beach.
And if you really get stuck, they got real humans that can help you. Full-time human beings that can answer your questions. linuxacademy.com/unplugged. linuxacademy.com/unplugged. Go there to support the show, and a big thank you to Linux Academy for sponsoring the Unplugged program. So though I was thinking about this, I couldn't really build a network without some data. Like, if I don't even track the downloads, then I don't know what shows are a huge waste of our time versus what shows people really like. So, like, if you're building a server and you're not collecting metrics on where people are connecting from, then you can't properly build out how your site loads for people. You can't cache it correctly. Like, you have to do some level of tracking, and even at that level, metadata is useful.
Certainly.
You and I were talking about a couple of different examples of metadata that we have just from like friends and family that use different services, and it's like you can kind of figure out what they're doing just by looking at the metadata. And I definitely wish Stallman was right here, but it just doesn't seem possible. It just doesn't seem. It seems like we've gone too far down that route. You could technically do it, but there's not enough motivation to pull it off. Do you think I'm wrong?
Well, I wish you were more wrong. I mean, I think in an alternate universe, it all seems possible. It seems like it could be within our reach, except it's going to be a lot of work, and it's going to because it's one of those like we can but should we questions,
Right.
and that takes impulse control
Yeah.
and principles that you apply on a daily basis, especially in the face of like profit-driven motives or other things, and that's where I think it breaks down.
Do you think, okay, so I think maybe this could change if people started to really value what their personal information was worth. Like if a couple of things keep happening that made people understand the value of it. So Minimec suggests that perhaps it's an opt-in feature, but would people actually pay for that, Mini, or would they, if you don't offer to them for free, they're not going to bother? You know what I'm saying? Like I get the idea that like you and Stallman were positioning that something like that could be an extra feature you pay for, like the tracking that records all of your routes so you can graph them all for the year. But I don't think anybody would actually pay for it, do you?
No, I think if you want to have trust again in these services, try to collect as less data as possible and tell your users you can have other features in this product, but then you will share this and this and this data. And all this stuff should be opt-in and not opt-out. It's like that I think you can gain the trust again. Otherwise, a lot of people are really scary now what they're doing.
I wonder if either Popey or Wimpy would like to comment on the GDPR stuff, because obviously it's at the fringes of my understanding, but he does mention in here the EU's GDPR regulations are well-meaning, but don't go very far. He says they won't deliver very much privacy because the rules are too relaxed. They permit collecting any data if it's somehow useful to the system, and it's easy to come up with any way to make a particular data useful for something, he says. The GDPR makes much of requiring users to give consent for the collection of their data, but it doesn't do much good. System designers have become experts at manufacturing consent. Does either one of you have a thought on GDPR and his take that it doesn't go far enough, it doesn't do enough, it doesn't really solve this problem?
I would love to offer some erudite insight into that, but I've accidentally started playing Bomb Jack using MAME.
Good for you.
Yes, respect.
That's fine. That means
that's a lot more fun, probably.
As it happens, I have been looking at GDPR a little bit recently, and the problem that I see with it, from my own point of view, with regards to the Ubuntu Mate project and the way that we collect our crowdfunding, is that creates a problem for us. But the issue is that the rules are too vague, and therefore pretty much everything falls under its rules in some fashion or other, and it's unclear if you're truly affected and whether you need to make a change, or are people just making changes because it's so vague.
Yeah, that has been my take on it too. I did a little bit of looking into it for Tech Talk today, and that I was really surprised at the language when I actually got my hands on it. It just seemed like you could interpret that in a lot of different ways, and maybe that's what Stallman is trying to get at here. He says that we just have to stop surveillance before it even begins to prevent this, and I think that ship's already sailed, unfortunately, and that's why I think he's a little defeatist. Like, I think some part of him must know it's too late. It's,
Right. And like maybe there are opportunities to choose some services if more services and things spring up that do claim at least to have those principles. But there are so many like with cameras, like things that governments use. There's so many little areas that often are ignored by the public. It's hard to see there being a lot of scrutiny or impetus to make changes there.
He does give a plug, though, for their one-click cashment payment. GNU Taler, T-A-L-E-R? Taler?
Taylor?
I don't
know.
Probably not Taler. It's a electronic payment system under development that they hope to make operational this year. and they're pretty jazzed about it. So he gives it a plug in the Guardian article there.
I have not actually played with. I have heard of it before. It looks like they've got a snazzier site now, so that's the first step.
Yeah, that is. I don't know. I read this and I think, boy, good idea. The problem is that it just doesn't scale. Like his idea for local storage and cameras, that doesn't scale. It simply is. There's too many cameras now, and there's too few people to monitor them, and it's too late. This ship's already sailed.
I wonder if is there time? Can this abate some potential AI machine learning problems? We're only getting started in the creep factors possible in that technology. Can we forestall some developments?
Yeah, well, is there something you can individually do is what I was thinking about. Like, what if you just became an international man of mystery or woman intentionally? Like we talked about this before, but like you start using VPNs regularly. You start using GPG all the time. You maybe use different names for different sites. You use different containers in Firefox to create different identities.
Or live CDs only.
Yeah, like maybe you start behaving like somebody who is trying to cover their tracks a little bit, so that way it just becomes normal. And then the more of us who do it, it's just the norm. Like that's just what technology people do. Oh, those techies, they're always using all that security.
Right. We've seen things like some devices that try to VPN as a router at the edge or funnel you through Tor.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So if you did those things, then that would mitigate tracking. And I saw this hat. I saw this hat that blocks face recognition. I wonder if we could find it. Hat that blocks face. Let's find it. It's a face recognition prevention hat. It's the most funniest thing because it's well, that's actually kind of a funny thing when you search for that. You get a lot of funny different results. But somebody is working on a hat that has a built-in LED light array in the brim, which blocks facial recognition cameras, and you can wear that when you go out if you were super paranoid. See, that's the thing. Right there, I just did it. We have to stop talking like it's a super paranoid thing to do. Like it just has to become okay and normal to want to have a hat that blocks facial recognition.
Right, that your personal privacy is a reasonable thing to protect without having to explain why or feel like you're suspicious or paranoid.
And nobody listening is going to do it. Nobody. I wonder what that tells us. Maybe this is something we're just okay with.
Maybe if we collect a whole bunch of information, we can find out what that tells us.
Yeah, I think it tells us the scale of economies with technology and the momentum there is so strong that this is happening. That we're now capable of having machines that are capable of analyzing images. We can have them monitor multiple video feeds at the same time, and that capability is just beginning. It's just going to get more advanced. It's here. And we've all known it. Anybody that's been in technology for years has known this is coming. We've all known this is coming.
Yes.
It's so obvious because the machines are getting better and better with machine vision and all of that. So I guess the next conversation we need to be having and should already be having is, what do we change about society and society's understanding of technology to make sure that this is properly stewarded so that people can be good shepherds of this stuff? Is that possible, or is that pie in the sky?
It is pie in the sky. It seems possible. It seems like that can be a track that we could head down, but
because nobody in here, I don't believe anybody in the mumble room, I don't believe probably anyone listening is going to start wearing a hat to block facial recognition, is going to start using VPNs all the time, is going to use GPG. Maybe those things are maybes, but it's going to be such a minority of the audience that does it. It could literally be down to you could fit them on, you could count them with one hand. How many people in our audience?
Let alone popular culture. And how do you get that movement to start? Sure, there's lots of people concerned about Facebook,
it's not going to happen.
We just don't have that level of skill or interest.
And there's just so many new devices coming online all the time that track your activity, that generate metadata, that even just, I covered an article that was looking at they put a packet with consent. They put a packet capture at the router and just looked at the data generated by smart appliances like smart plugs and the Alexa and that stuff. and they were able to get a pretty good idea of what was going on in the household.
Right?
So that's all. It's happened already.
Yep.
It's happened.
And
so,
people still want those features, right? Like, just think about how many people, even in our audience, are still hooked on Google services, because it turns out when they read all of your email with machines, it's nice, right? Or like they when they know all of the calendar appointments you have, they can do clever things, and you like those things.
Yeah, I'm taking the kids on spring break a road trip over the weekend, and in my Google Now cards is a card for here's the things to do in that town, and I'm like, wow. It read my email, figured out that I booked a campsite, and then generated a card of the highlights of what to do in that town without me ever prompting for a single thing. I don't know if, good or bad, it's just interesting that it can do that. So we're there. So that's why I think we have to talk about the good stewardship stuff a little bit. And maybe really we can't possibly come up with a solution here, but maybe we can come up with a way to start the conversation. I don't know.
Right. Sets of principles, and then maybe eventual regulation or other steps so that these can be ingrained, right? Like how do we set up at least guardrails so that maybe some of these can still exist if you want them, but that we can be assured that some sort of privacy-centered policies are being followed on the back end.
Pie in the sky stuff on this week's episode, Wes.
I'm depressed now.
It's being driven by corporations, right? So it's going to be difficult. But I guess we are their customers.
And I think there have been cases in the past, right, where like consumer sentiment changed, and companies were forced to reflect on that. But it's a slow process, and I think also somewhat unpredictable.
Yeah. I'll give, if anybody in the Mumble Room wants to give a final word on the idea of kind of what we do now that we're at this point with the Googles and the Facebooks and the Cambridge Analyticas and all of the other monitors out there, what is the next step that we can practically take? Does anybody have thoughts on that?
You mentioned GPG.
Mm-hmm.
That is definitely a way to encrypt email and make it possible, and I just recently found a way to do it with Apple Mail. Is anybody going to seek that out? No.
Yeah.
Unfortunately. And so that's just kind of the world we're living in, is that nobody even knows they can do it, let alone will do it.
Yeah. Yeah, and the thing is Stallman's not going to be around forever, and there's really almost nobody that gets media recognition that's banging that drum like that.
Eben Moglen.
Yeah,
is the name.
Well, and Edward, I could name a couple others. Edward Snowden has been also, making some public statements about Cubes OS, for example, has been promoted by Edward Snowden. So there's others, but it's a handful of people, don't you think, Dar?
I think it's a handful of people, but you don't really want many people to do this. See, Stallman is an issue sometimes because of his other political views. Eben Moglen seems to be the most balanced person so far in terms of being to the positions of Stallman, because Stallman is usually a little bit of the extreme to kind of make that contrast to the middle ground that most people actually live in. Eben Moglen is kind of more towards spending that side, but actually still reaches the people of the middle ground. Edward Snowden, he's always going to have that reputation of the past of what he has done.
Yeah.
And then you have to think, he still uses, the proprietary product still. He says Apple is good and things like that. So that's not really the message for a foundation like that.
So Stallman's solution for privacy, is build the systems not to collect the data to begin with. But my counter to that was we're so far past that. So what do you do now, Dar? So what do you do now at this point? Now that it's already there. Everybody's already monitoring. There's thousands of cameras in cities, in any modern city now. So now what?
So I think that the point we got ourselves in is the one that things like Freedom Box matter more. It's a project that intends to be this device that you sit in front of your router, so all of your traffic goes through it, kind of does its fix before it gets to the real network, and it happens. You make phones that follow the same principles. It's not connected to your modem at all times. And you keep doing this and actually making people care. And eventually, when it comes to the CCTV cameras and everything, which is the part we can do the least, it becomes less of a thing, because usually CCTV cameras are way worse because they have so much other data on you already, right? So they can then say, oh, yes, we're spotting these also other behavior. But if there's just a footage of you going somewhere, there's no other notions of your blog post. It's kind of irrelevant most of the time. It's public information like anyone would have seen you.
It does seem like, though, as long as we're connecting out to services that track us, there's only so much we can do.
Yes, right.
If you're connecting to Facebook still, or Twitter, or Slack, or Google, you think not?
Let's imagine the Freedom Box scenario, right? Let's imagine the Freedom Box scenario. You post on Facebook, but Freedom Box already sees that you're posting on Facebook, so encrypts the message. You see it as if it was decrypted. Your friends see it as if it was decrypted. Yes, it is stored on Facebook, but ultimately it's encrypted text that actually is there in the database.
I didn't realize that was a capability of the
that
Freedom
would be
Box.
great.
That would be that if that was possible. Like, so the Freedom Box is essentially doing encryption of the Facebook post and decryption on the other end automatically in this scenario, in this hypothetical scenario.
This is the type of idea that Freedom Box aims to achieve. It's not at that stage. It's hard work. It requires a lot of people, and not that many people are working on that project, which makes it funny enough because, you know, its importance. But ultimately, it does some of the primary fundamental things, like your email actually intends to do this for all email providers, actually intercepting there. And that's kind of what's intended. And if we get to build tools like this, then nobody needs to worry. Like, it automatically verifies your traffic and things like that.
Now, I just hope that we can build these things and get them established while enough people still care. Not to make this about the
it's
damn
probably
kids,
a pretty short little window that we have, right?
That is what my concern is. Like that Freedom Box it does look like a great project. I'll have a link in the show notes, but freedombox.org if you want to check it out.
It seems like part of the problem is just too that like oftentimes, you know, maybe with enough consumer interest we could have some easy to use privacy focused things, but even making the claim of privacy, right? It's not a feature that you use in a normal sense, and it takes a certain amount of understanding of the technical systems underpinning it to be able to appreciate, like, is this privacy real or is it just hype and marketing?
Yeah.
So that makes it hard for consumers to self-select as well.
So, Mumble Room, remind me, who just bought TunnelBear? Was it McAfee that just bought TunnelBear? You know?
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's an example.
Intel owns McAfee.
Yeah, right. Oh, actually, I thought they spun them off. But either way, it doesn't matter. My point is that it shows you that even when there's this is not to make this like a socialism thing, but it seems like to me like if there is a business directive to earn money at a service like a VPN service, that is a really, really precarious position to be in, and your company's got to be structured right to do that. And the problem is that, you know, another company can come in and buy them, and they can have a completely different set of standards. So that's why it would be nice to be something that the open source community addresses, or at least even if it's a commercial company, the solution they're implementing is using open source software.
Using open source, having more nonprofits involved, similar things.
Yeah.
These, in my perspective, this is the reason you don't pick software for its technical capabilities, but rather for the principles of the project. That's how you know that they're not going to sell out to somebody that would then allow those things to happen. That's the whole principle. You make contracts like the GPL does to, when you actually sign up to FSF, the FSF goes and makes an effort to make a contract to you that they will never go and do other things. So you have legal ground to sue them if they do so. Ultimately, that it's that kind of trust that is required more than the technical capabilities. And we tend to very often go to the technical capabilities as a choice. We say that it's great that it's open source, but that doesn't allow the reversibility of the open source project.
Yeah.
While having that type of criteria does allow for that.
That is a well put point. In fact, I think that's a good note there to wrap that segment on, because perhaps long term, that is the best way to go about making your choice.
I think so.
All right, Mr. West, the Linux Unplugged program is live every single Tuesday, and it would love to have you join that virtual live.
Do it.
Apparently, we talk about ourselves now in the third person.
That just happens. Come join us. Tell us to stop. Tell us to keep it up. We need you here.
It only stops if you make us go to jblive.tv on a Tuesday, get it converted to your time at jupiterbroadcasting.com/calendar. And again, notes for everything at linuxunplugged.com/243. Oh, thanks so much for being here, and we'll see you right back here next Tuesday.
I've never installed GNU/Linux.
All right. We name this thing, and then we get out of here.
Amazing.
Good job, everybody. I know it was kind of an awkward, somber episode with that shooting going down.
Yeah, it's true.
That's weird. Has anybody seen any update? Is the YouTube
Fill us in. We were busy.
Yeah, we were. That's some pretty serious stuff.
You know, okay?
Yeah, I don't.
I saw something about a woman with a self-inflicted gunshot wound. So that's all I've heard.
Okay. Yeah, I'll keep an eye out. Anyways, let's pick our title. Yeah, it's just heartbreaking when that kind of stuff happens, really. So hopefully everybody at YouTube is okay, including some people that we know that work there. So yeah, our thoughts are with them. All right, jbtitles.com, jbtitles.com. Yeah, Dar, I think that was a good point. I'm glad we were able to end it on that.
Yeah, definitely.
And Dan, thank you very much for making it. That made
beautiful.
Made that segment much better, as always. So appreciate you. Thank you, too, to everybody else for making it. Good to have all you guys here.
You guys are the tops.
The Stallman Directive, not too bad.
No, not bad at all.
Plundered privacy booty. The code of code is code. 404 Stallman not found. Clouds of participation or precipitate. Yeah, you have to look at it yourselves. That's difficult. My brain isn't working too good today.
Yeah, it is.
Well, it's busted, Wes. I've used all my brain. I have to take the rest of the week off.
I think you should.
I used all my brain.
Everyone
buffer.
hang tight. We'll be back next week.
Yeah. All done.
Just put reruns on, see if anyone notices.
Yeah, we'll just go back and we'll play episode 43 in place of episode 243 and see if anybody even notices. You could all. Well, you know what? Let's go see what we were talking about 200 episodes ago. I wonder if we can find that. You think we can? All right, you guys go boat while I go see what we
decide for us. We can't title this.
No. My brain is way.
Hey, there's a noise in the mumble room. I can't hear a word.
Who is that?
Sorry.
Who is that? Linux Unplugged. Let's see.
I don't have that noise.
What noise? I don't hear any noise.
No, neither do I.
Good.
Maybe
It's just
maybe
me.
Let's see. Episode. Interesting. 31 is when we changed over to the new logo. Okay, so I guess I can't call it new anymore. Let's see.
Yeah, the standard logo.
43. Mint 7, fresh or stagnant. Oh, interesting.
Wow.
Yeah.
What was the verdict?
Well, I have a feeling I would say stale, but
Hey, Chris.
Mm-hmm. Yes, sir.
Have you got a tremendous amount of spare time today?
Not particularly, but I got to edit this here. But
no, that's fine.
Well, that's mysterious though.
Yeah, that's so mysterious.
That's super mysterious though. You're leaving me hanging.
You're just letting that dangle.
Well, I'll let you choose whether to do this or not. But if you do snap install SDL pop, SDL, the simple direct media layer, SDL POP, and then run SDL pop.
Let's give this
It's not my fault if you lose the rest of your day.
Noted. Yeah, that's
All right.
fair. Yes, that is a good disclaimer.
We're gonna give it a go. All right, the Stallman Directive is winning right now. By the way, so if you have a title opinion, all right. So now I'm gonna run SDL pop. Does this need sound or anything or?
Sound.
Do you have
better
the
with sound,
recording
yes.
somewhere else?
This is
in
amazing.
case?
This is amazing. This is amazing. Okay, so to quick save and load, press. Oh, I didn't. Oh no.
What?
Oh, Prince of Persia.
Amazing.
Is this?
It's an SDL re-implementation of the DOS disassembly that was done a little while ago.
What?
This is great. This is so great.
Looks good.
Oh man, I didn't read the.
Keep the kids busy over spring break.
Yeah, what? I didn't read the keys though, so I have no idea how to move. All I know is I have 60 minutes.
Arrow keys, Control, and Alt are the only keys you need.
Arrow keys, Control, and Alt. Nothing happens. Nothing happens. It's all I want to. Oh, that's gonna be fun. So I'm gonna have to snap install SDL pop on all the things now. Boy, CoinTop and
These are
the
two
SDL
snap
pop
winners today.
Yeah, the good times just keep on snapping. I love it.
Hey, Chris, it's Ironic.
Hello, Ironic.
Sorry I was late. I wanted to talk to you about LinuxServer.io. I don't know if now is better or next week or whatever.
Well, if you want it in the show, we should do it next week.
Yes,
because we just
I'm
we
late.
just
I
stopped
admit
recording.
I am
a minute ago.
late.
No, it's so fine. It's fine. You know what? It's an open show format, so it's easy to pop in next week. So no worries. I would get here let's see. So it's 3:20 my time now. I would, usually if you and I chatted before the show starts, so the show starts at 2 my time. So if we chatted like 5-10 minutes before that, because I'm usually in the mumble room by then, I'll slot it into a spot in the show. Totes. That'd be good.
That sounds ideal. And I'll get it right for GMT next week.
Yeah. Don't worry. The time math is a pain in the butt.
I was an hour late, so hey, it's my fault.
No, it happens. It does happen.
Yes, daylight saving times changed in Europe now.
Oh, yeah.
Yes. You know what's sexier? Arizona doesn't change, and when you work with people from Arizona, you cry every single time.
Yeah.
Everybody
That's
else
the
changed,
one thing I miss about
except
living
that
there.
one client.
Yeah, I have
Why do
family.
we still do daylight savings again? Remind me.
I everybody asks this, and I seriously can't get a good answer on
I'm
this
to help you. I'm to help you. This is the evil answer, okay? Use Google Calendar and set it so that it never changes your time zone, but it changes for the other persons. Well, in this case, you can set a time zone to be always matching. So if I have an event of a time zone of the event, so it changes for you.
Yeah, and of course, for us, we have the calendar page, which is supposed to auto shift it for people's time.
Oh yeah, should.
Yeah, I just don't like it at all because
It does, by the way.
when I'm trying to set up interview times with like guests and stuff like that, it's always like these like paragraphs of disclaimers on time, like, well, your time zone is this and my time zone is this, so it's going to be this time my time and this time your time. Make sure we're talking about the same thing. Like even with Mike, like we always have to say, all right, so that'll be noon my time, 3 your time. Like we always have to do the confirmation thing, even though we've done 303 weeks of the show. Like we still
Two companies I deal with, we just use UTC time. Then everybody offsets to wherever they are.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a nice way to do it. Probably have a slick little web app you could use.
We should have Jupiter Broadcasting Master Time.
Well, if you really want to just set up things based on your availability, Calendly works well. This is like basically you put the empty slots you have, and the other person selects the empty slot. They look at their own time, but because it's a UI that you're interacting with, that you click on it, it's kind of
nice. That's pretty
It's
sweet.
pretty good. We've tried that.
Oh, yeah?
We send emails to developers and say to them, hey, just find a time in my calendar. Here's a link. And they click the link and they put it in your calendar. But they don't get to see your calendar. They get to see the Calendarly view of your calendar.
So what is it's Calendarly? Is that
Calendarly? Yeah, something.
Yeah, okay.
But the problem with the free version lets you have a limited number of event types. So if I want to have like a half-hour chat with a developer, that's one type of event, and I can give them a link and they can use that. But if I want to have different types of events, you have to pay up. So yeah, it's a paid service, but I'm sure it's pretty good. I haven't used it an awful lot, but we tried it.
Yeah, I've seen others like that too, and I think Microsoft or somebody offers like something as part of their it seems like, speaking of that, it should be built into frickin' Google Apps.
Yeah.
Why is that not part of like when you're a business customer, you get that? Because they could just build it into Google Calendar.
Some space for other companies to do something.
Ooh, yeah.
Soon enough, they'll come around and take my business too, man.
That's you know what? That is a good point. It's like how many markets are they going to eat up over the years? They're just basically keep on rolling.
Whichever ones Amazon hasn't already gotten to.
Yeah, the answer to that is whatever they can, right? Whatever they can. Hey, so OBS or GNOME didn't crash. So if you voted in the chat room, if you took GNOME not crashing, you won this one. Ding 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 ding. Congratulations. I don't think anybody. I think it could be a drinking game. Take a drink every time GNOME takes a dump. Although
wouldn't take it.
My Plasma desktop, I'm gonna have to reboot again to get this thing working. I'm having plasma problems. Already. That's a good title, Plasma Problems.
That is a good title.
I'm sure they'd love that.
Hey, Chris, have you seen the Linux Game Jam thing that Gartner's been promoting recently?
No, I haven't. What is it?
So it's a contest kind of thing, like a game development jam to promote people making games on Linux. And it's on itch.io. If you look under jams, it starts on this Friday. So runs for a couple of weeks, I think, and you get some time. You have to develop during the 2 weeks of the game jam, but you can submit anything you like. There's some criteria theme that goes along, which you can find out on itch.io.
You going to submit anything?
If I get time, but Cassidy from Elementary is one of the judges, and your friend of mine, Brian Lunduk, is a judge, and I think there's some other people as well. Gartner might be a judge as well, but it's good. It's a good way of promoting more games on Linux.
So it's like it's sort of like a contest hackathon kind of thing. So the idea is to get games.
Yeah,
That's nice.
a couple of weeks, create your own game. You can work as a team or as an individual, just as long as you create everything within that couple of weeks. It's just a bit of fun, really.
Yeah.
And they judge, and I don't know if there's prizes or anything, but yeah.
I like that idea. That seems like a good idea.
Yeah, neat.
Don't yawn. Jeez, oh my
Ooh,
gosh.
unprofessional.
Bad, Chris, bad. Yeah.
Am I boring you?
No, I just didn't get enough sleep. I actually kind of like the idea right now of some good positive Linux gaming news too, because with
that would be nice.
them pulling off the Steam machines, it kind of feels like
yeah,
I don't know. I mean, I guess it was kind of obvious those Steam machines weren't going anywhere. Dell was just so dancing around it. I like the idea.
Machines are not going anywhere. It's not just Steam machines. Machines in general are not going anywhere. Have you heard Apple moving away? From
Yeah, I don't know. You think that's true? You think they? I mean, I'm sure eventually, but
makes sense. Like it's what they've been doing everywhere else. Like
Yeah.
Whenever they got good into a place, they
Yeah.
move away.
Everyone's speculated about this for years. That
Yeah,
they would
true.
eventually harmonize.
yeah,
But now they
yeah.
have actually managed to have good CPUs on the phone that are, tangible.
That's what I was saying to
Feels
coders,
more
like, too, they could put like 16 of 810s in a Mac Pro if they want. Like, if they need to get it to benchmark what a Xeon iMac Pro does now, they can just put 25 ARM cores in there if they have to.
Right, and they've got in-house people, just working on their cores.
And they're designing the silicon, they're designing the OS, they're designing the operating system scheduler.
Some of the apps.
But it doesn't match
Well,
like
also-
the latest bleeding edge iMacs. Those things are
Monsters.
Sure.
Yeah. And you can't replace that. I mean, you'd need a cluster of.
They
ARM
probably
machines
just do
to
it like
replace
they did the Intel transition. Like, the first machine they launched was the iMac on Intel, and everything else was still PowerPC for like a year. And then they slowly moved
So
over.
this is the other thing. Apple does projects, and when you start hearing about them, it's already ready. So
Yeah, it's probably true.
Yeah, right.
True.
but that's the other part. Like, when now it's coming actually somewhat from them.
Yeah, it looks
Because
like it
they're
was
actually
two different. It was CNBC and Bloomberg who both said they talked to somebody familiar with the matter on it. So that's definitely
So what does
possible.
this mean for, like, how?
What does it mean for
Windows-
Darwin?
What was it called? What was the ARM version of Windows called?
Oh, the Windows RT?
Oh,
Or
Boot Camp.
whatever
That's
was?
it. RT.
Oh,
Windows
oh,
RT.
oh.
And how that bombed abysmally. Surely people are going to be like, as soon as Apple do this, everyone else is going to be following, and every other vendor, Lenovo,
It's going
Asus,
to be awesome.
HP,
Funny.
they're all going to create HP ARM laptops. And what OS are they going to run on them?
This is the amazing thing when it comes down to Windows. You don't have to worry because Windows is inserting so much Linux underneath the Linux subsystems that eventually they can just run Linux as well underneath to take care of it. Just think of it.
The Windows
I've been
window
telling this
environment.
For too long, we'll have a Windows desktop environment. I've been telling you this. I did a prediction here in this
Yeah,
show.
you did.
actually.
You did. Yeah, you did.
They'll add a
So,
Linux subsystem for Windows in their
Yeah.
own proprietary version of the kernel, and then
Yeah, really.
run Linux on top of that.
Huh. I think if Apple did this, that's because they want to start selling convergent iPads and whatnot.
Yeah, I
That's
can
why
see that.
that's why they would do this, right?
No.
They want iPads that you can, don't you think? And I think
No,
it's also to
it's
take
more
advantage
the
of
AR
developers.
stuff.
I think it's
I think
also
it's more for the AR stuff.
oh
Actually.
man, maybe. And there's so many more developers on iOS.
Yeah.
They have no traction on the Mac, and they have so much traction on iOS.
Swift came out a pretty good language, something that C# never really was. I mean, it has good technology there, but
Yeah, but we'll see. This is gonna be really interesting.
it's too corporate.
It seems like it'll happen eventually. I don't know what it's going to mean for like Linux on that hardware too. That'll be interesting. All new territory.
Yeah, no kidding.
Just as things get normal in Kumskis, they got to go and change it all up on us. Oh, I'm surprised we haven't seen that Noah character yet.
Most people still use phones as majority of their devices.
That's
And,
just it. Is they have way more potential iOS customers than they do Mac customers, so they can actually afford to fuck around with the Mac quite a bit because at the end of the day, it's iOS where they're making all their money and where
Yeah,
all their
right.
future potential growth is too. Really,
Yeah.
Whew. Yeah. I think some power users are not going to like that move. There's going to be some users that need x86.
Oh yeah, for sure.
I mean, look at the whole legacy, like all the Adobe applications and all of that.
I feel sad sometimes for Adobe. I mean,
They will have those people on stage at the announcement.
Yeah, right,
They
exactly.
will already be aware. They'll already be building all their flagship applications
Yeah.
for ARM and optimizing them for whatever weird ass A11 or A
Built to run on
A53
metal.
chip is in there.
Yeah, right. Yeah, exactly. Gosh.
I guess it is pretty easy to see it all happening, isn't it? It's totally going to happen.
So yeah, it'll be like if you fit into like that main Mac target, then yeah, okay, you'll probably be just fine. Maybe it's a little worse. If you're some weird open source person who wants to run certain things, yeah, it might be difficult.
You weirdo open source person.
Privacy
came to the
freak.
point fair enough, I don't use many fancy apps, but I came to the point that I could, but if I wanted, actually do all of my work in Dex, which is kind of depressing. I got to the point that I can do it. It's strange.
Yeah, I mean, it does seem like you look at the Raspberry Pi too, like, and the fact that made on the Raspberry Pi has been so popular, like the ARM revolution is nigh.
Yeah,
don't you think? Like Intel's winter is coming, and
well, Intel is already they licensed ARM recently to be able to produce ARM chips. So
yeah, but didn't they do that? I thought they did that like 2 years ago, and nothing's come of it.
Well, it doesn't need to come out of it per se. Like Exynos chip from Samsung, they also license ARM cores, and internally inside of Exynos you have some ARM cores. So it could well be that you have inside of Intel CPUs some ARM cores, and they just don't make great advertisement of that part.
I bet that's probably true. Man. Oh, police audio of the shooting.
Down in the center court area with the gunshot wound to the chest.
Was I saying it's always worth listening to the police audio if you really care?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a thing. Live has detected your computer is not a small apartment in Berlin where you have moved to further your music career and will shut down now. Oh, April Fools. Hey, everybody managed to get through April Fools fairly unscathed?
Yeah.
This year was pretty tame, I think.
I mostly avoided the
my
internet.
boss
Worked out great.
Something, but it never happened.
Yeah.
I almost got tricked.
You did? You did?
MKey BHD video on Samsung like Bixby speaker or something was kind of like.
Oh, I could see that.
I was not expecting. I woke up in the morning and I was like, okay, so Samsung did something fucked up. Okay, let's see. What was it? And of course, then it's obvious, but at the beginning, I was like, wait, what?
For a hot second, the Free Software Foundation's I can't remember what they said, but basically that they were going to crowdfund to buy Facebook. That made me smile. That made me chuckle. I guess yeah.
No. Sorry, it's just that I forgot to tell you that there's a guy actually in France, a mayor, that said that a company would open there, IKEA would open there and generate 4,000 jobs. That was a lie in April's Fool.
Ouch!
Twitter.
Yikes! That's
People got mad.
Yeah,
that was terrible.
Yeah,
it's like, hey, we're gonna have 4,000 new jobs.
Well, nowadays it's a little bit disconcerting if people are willing to take a joke nowadays in this era of offensiveness and being easily offended and trigger warnings and all this sort of stuff.
Oh, he's a mayor. Could not be doing this kind of stuff.
Yeah, that one's a little crossing the line.
If I say it, it's fine. If you say it, it's fine.
If the mayor.
It's like, you unemployed suckers. It's like...
Yeah, that's a little rough. That is a little rough.
Yeah, and he then apologized, wanted to remove the thing, and then said that there's another development that is ongoing that will make about 4,000 jobs, but it's yet to come.
Ooh. Let's see. I saw Manjaro switched their homepage theme over to the same theme that Barbecue Linux uses. That was amusing. See any other April Fool's jokes that jump out at us?
My favourite was somewhat location specific, and it was the UK arm of the European Parliament mentioning that starting next year, all European passports would be blue. It's a very if you like, the Americans probably haven't heard of this. You've heard of Brexit, right?
Yeah, of course.
And the British passport before we joined Europe was blue, was like royal blue, and when we joined Europe, it became the standard
Bordeaux.
What color is that? Bordeaux.
Bordeaux.
Yeah. Bordeaux, right? And
it's not standard, not legal requirement.
Loads of
letting you know
yes, I know, but loads of stupid British people who voted for us to come out of Europe were the same kind of people who said we should, reclaim all our British properties, including the passport. It should be blue again. And so on April Fool's Day, the UK arm of the European Parliament tweeted that all European passports were going to switch to blue as well, which I thought was a brilliant troll against all these people in Britain.
That is
think
great.
It matters whatever the colour
Right.
of the passport is.
Yeah, like it makes a difference.
Did you
Which
see
is funny.
the
We don't even need the passport to travel around the EU.
Did you see the insignia that was on that blue passport?
No.
It read, "Your mother was a hamster and your father smelled of elderberries."
Wow. Oh, that's great.
No, but the greatest joke about this story is that these blue passports should be printed in France, I think. Right?
Yes, that's right. It's just a joke.
Interesting. So Twitter has like one of their moments on the YouTube shooting, and they have everybody who's talking about it, and they have like video from the location and stuff.
I guess Google Maps now shows active shooters.
3. Wow.
Yeah.
Jesus. 3 people with injuries so far. 2 women. 1 age 32 with serious injuries. Another 27. 1 man in critical condition, age 36. That's a weird thing.
Yeah.
That's, this could be one to follow, I think, because that's different. Well, thank you guys. Sorry, I shouldn't bring it down like that. It's just, I don't know, that's today, I guess. Sometimes that's the news.
Sometimes you live in the moment.
It's not the fucking news.
Yeah.
It's really getting to be.
We need some filters.
It's getting to be the point where you got to take
We're
news
not
breaks.
watching the news for Syria.
What about it?
What about it? It's basically, the everyday.
Oh, yeah. I know. Yeah. No kidding. Yeah.
We convert Facebook into, instead of like making us hate each other, some sort of weird happy news bubble
Just
where we
only
can just
pictures
go,
of cats and dogs.
Cute pictures of cats and dogs and
Yeah.
happy Linux news.
Yeah.
What that actually says is that we're terrible at communicating with each other, that we conform to cats and babies.
Yeah. I think that is true. I think there is some. I think a lot of people do that. I think a lot of people take on a pet because it's just a lot easier than having a human relationship. I've known some older folks that I swear that you'd think that's what they're doing. They were the biggest dog or cat fan, but not big fans of people.
Yes. Well, they are better than people.
Yeah,
so.
maybe they're onto something. Maybe they know it. Maybe they figured it out. Where's that Noah guy? He usually pops in here. That Noah guy?
He's getting ready for his fantastic show.
The Ask Noah program.
Yeah, he's doing a live
He's in the Ford.
broadcast in a hangout. He's like doing a hangout right now, as far as I'm aware.
Oh, maybe that's why he's not here
But
then.
not an app hangout, but like an actual IRL hangout.
Oh, you mean not a Google one?
Yeah, IRL is a competitor in that space.
Jeez. So what do you guys think of Cloudflare launching DNS?
I mean, discuss it. I find it funny how they still got 1.1.1.1.
Damn, yeah. Talk about some real estate, huh?
That was expensive.
Yeah, no doubt about that.
How expensive do you think it was?
Well, they talked about this in the blog post. They talked about the fact that they provided some infrastructure to the people who owned 1.1.1.1 in order to do some analysis of all the traffic that's currently pointed to that IP address. So I imagine they've sunk that cost in existing hardware they have.
One thing leads to another. Huh. So I guess, so what you're saying is that they were just seeing, like, they wanted to know, like, just what kind of random ass traffic was going to 1.1.1?
Yeah.
Yeah, because lots of people use that as, like, it's like in the old days before the year 2000, people would put a date in of, like, 99999, right? And then everything broke in the year 1999 because people did stupid shit like that. The same thing happens with DNS. When you start putting random IP addresses that you think don't exist, they actually do resolve somewhere, and they want to see what that traffic looks like.
Yeah. So they'd been like trying to study it, but every time they advertised those routes, they were overloaded. Cloudflare was like, Psh,
Right.
bro, we got you. We can do that.
Maybe,
we can fix that.
I'm a big fan of local DNS servers myself, even if it's just caching, That, like, DNS mask, right? That seems like that's way better than any hosted DNS service. It's always going to be faster. It's your land speed, right? So why?
Well,
But
No?
but you do need some server, right?
Well,
You
yeah,
have to-
for it to do other lookups too.
Yeah.
But then once it's got the record, doesn't? I mean, in theory, if it holds on to it, wouldn't that just be?
Actually, since we're talking about DNS, just probably most users are aware, but for those that are not aware, just letting this thing out. Do not forget, if you see sometimes if you go to a torrent website or whatever tracker and you're trying to get in and it says that the certificate is wrong, 9 out of 10 times government has taken over. So you change your DNS and connect again. And the certificate should not be bonkers.
Yeah.
We're giving that reminder.
That doesn't work in the UK. They've made it much more aggressive. Yeah,
Wow.
yeah, I know. It's pretty predictable.
Like,
but
how so?
you
How
can-
so?
You can change your DNS and you still can't get to the Pirate Bay. You have to use a VPN to do it.
Those bastards.
Interestingly, there's a lot of places that have figured out that 1.1.1.1 is broken from lots of networks around the world.
Yeah.
Because
I bet.
it was actually marked by AppNic back in the day as you should not use it. It's withheld from general use, only routed briefly for passive testing. If you're getting unwanted traffic, it's almost certainly spoofed source or hijacked address, so they would recommend everyone blocked it. And now they're Cloudflare are having to go around finding all these people who blocked it based on the advice of the previous owner and try and get it unblocked again.
We want that IP. It's pretty. It's worth it.
It is easy to remember.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. It is prime real estate. Like, that's the best address ever. So I guess it's worth it if you can. But I guess you did a little performance testing. You said you didn't really notice a huge difference between that and Google DNS?
Not for my endpoints. Yeah, about the same, somewhere around 3 millisecond response time. So hey, they're all doing pretty good.
Yeah.
But competition's not bad.
It's weird how having a recognizable IP address is like some cache. I used to work at Xerox and they owned 5 dot everything. And all the servers in our data center all have public IP addresses.
Sure, right? You got this giant range you bought years ago.
Yeah, and they weren't publicly routable, but they were public IP addresses. So internally, we all had 5 dot something something something, and we remembered them all because they all started with a 5.
Right?
But,
yeah.
yeah. It's
That's
weird
awesome.
how.
I know some universities end up doing that as well for the same reason. They just have these giant IP spaces. That would be nice. I mean, I suppose we can all have that in the V6 world.
I'm checking in with the Brown Bear, seeing what's going on with him, see what he's doing, see if...
He says, didn't you get my message? You're doing Ask Noah today, Chris.
All right, I would do a totally different show.
I
just for
imagine
fun.
so,
I would do
yeah.
like the Ask Chris show, but I think I would do like...
what about the Levi Hour?
Yeah, I don't know. Like if I had to randomly throw together a show right now, I don't think I'd do a very good job. My brain's a little fried today. But, I think
This
I
could
would...
be a late April Fool's joke.
I would try to do like a totally different take on it. I don't know but I can't think of what that would be off the top of my head. I guess it'd have to be like kind of a slow paced sort of very methodical show where I just sort of really slow down and we'll take a long time talking
What if you
about
just like read local menus for food real slowly?
it. Yeah, why not, right? I mean, I got to build the ambiance. I got to
Yeah.
build the theater of the mind, so we got to, of course, build a little world
Yeah,
context.
so many people call in and like probably curse at you no matter what, if it's a radio station or not.
I don't know. Yeah, I'd probably be the first person to curse, though, let's be honest. I don't think they should put me on radio. I always have to be good when I'm on a show. I have to remind myself that I have to be careful what I say.
It's difficult.
Yeah, well, you get used to it after a while. Like, I can do it, so.
You just become a proper
Reasons why
person.
you need reasons why you
Saying
need
you're a good actor?
Yeah. Or just have to be mindful, at least. I tell you
Or just
what.
convert to British. Add, I'm sorry. Sorry, Canadian.
I thought about it. I got family up
Right.
there.
Bedtime. Good night.
All right, good night, Popey. Thank you for
Sleep
joining us. Goodbye. Well, I should get going too.
Noah's building the boat.
I was going to wait to see if Noah joins us, but I have a
Wasn't
suspicion.
Noah
he'll be
having
back.
a user meeting today?
I don't know.
He might be building the ark.
think he-
Yeah, for the year
he mentioned
episode.
Something
Yeah.
in the Telegram room.
Yeah.
That should have been Noah's April Fool's joke, saying that he's going to start a project. It's immensely needed. Going to start building an ark.
All right, so I'm sending him a message, a couple of notes that he'll need to know, so he'll have that. But I guess we should probably wrap it up here. because he may be doing that right up until the last minute. So I guess I don't know. I don't know if he's bringing the mobile room or not when he's on location. That's got to be kind of tricky, but we'll see. But anyways, guys, thank you for being here. I appreciate it. I'd say stick around and just catch the show. I know he's been working on a couple of things for this episode. So a couple of things are in store.
Excited.
All right, Mumble Room, we're going to get out of here. But guys, thank you very much.
Yeah,
Talk
been
to
a
you later.
pleasure.
All right, Spizies. And thank you, chat room. I'm going to shut down the streams, but the streams will be back soon for the Ask Noah program. I'm probably going to shut down the OBS stream so that way I clear room for him. But yeah, I think that's it.
Yeah, stay tuned for more of our Tuesday of Linux.
Looks like he's actually ready to go just about. So I'm going to just I'm just going to kill the stream for a brief moment, and then he'll be back up. So if you're watching live, you don't have to go very far because Ask Noah's at the controls, or Mr. Ask Noah.
Mr. Ask Noah.
Mr. and Mrs. Ask Noah are at the controls. See you guys. Thank you for being here. And next live show for me is Unfilter tomorrow.
Be there or be square.
Okay, let's see. Test. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Okay, that works. Let's see if 6 sharp. I'll leave that there. Headset is available. If anyone wants to listen in and grab it, you guys are welcome to do that. Let's try mine. Mine better work. Test. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Oh, I can hear myself. Test. There we go. Test. It's a little low. Test. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There we go.
You have successfully connected as a host.
Requesting connection. Established. Encrypted. We're live. The show you've been asking for. Advice, technology, and community. Linux first, all others second. This is Ask Noah.
Hey, it's Chaz from upstate New York, calling to wish the Ask Noah Show a happy 1-year anniversary. Here's to many more years of serving the Jupiter broadcasting community with great information and how-tos about Linux.
Hey Noah, this is Chris DeLuca from West Virginia, wanting to wish you and all of the Ask Noah Show team a happy 1-year anniversary. Thank you for all you guys do.
Congratulations on the 1-year celebration of the Ask Noah Show. It's a huge show, a wonderful show, okay, the best show, the most fantastic podcast in the world, okay, believe me, that's true. I know so many podcasts, okay, the best podcast, but this one is the most fantastic podcast the world has ever seen, okay, believe me.
You did it, Brown Bear. You've made it a year. Now you're just really getting started. Congratulations.
Congratulations on 1 year of the Ask Noah Show. My name is Raymond and I've been working with Noah to create a music bed that represents the show. It was an amazing opportunity that allowed me to go back to my musical roots and record some heavy guitars. I hope you like the music. If you need music for your projects, don't hesitate to send me a message on RaymondBeefting.com, RamonBeefting.com. And again, Noah, congratulations on 1 year of the Ask Noah Show.
Live from Woodbury, Minnesota, the Ask Noah Show starts right now. This is the show where we came to do all the things on Linux they said we couldn't do, and take your questions on how to do the same. You can join us this hour with a free call to 1-855-450-NOAH. That's 1-855-450-6624, or send an email to live@asknoahshow.com. My name is Noah Chalaya, your host. Delighted to be here with you this evening as we kick off yet another episode of the Ask Noah Show, again live from the Tamarack. What is this place called? Tamarack Tap Room in Woodbury, Minnesota. And I'm joined with a bunch of fine folks that came out to watch the show live and to hang out. And of course, it didn't take very long, just a couple of minutes before the Nerd Fest started. In fact, we were sitting out. We got here, and I said we need a table for this many people. And they said, well, we can't give you a table until you have at least half of your party here. I said, okay, well, we'll just wait. So I was hanging out with Bitmux in the Ask Noah Telegram group. Welcome to the Ask Noah Show.
Well, good evening. I wasn't expecting to just jump right on, but hey, here we are.
You know what? That's what the headset was there for.
It's what it's for.
As it turns out.
I guess I picked it up. So
yeah, so we're sitting out there, we're talking, and we shook hands, we met, so we knew each other that way, and then I think it was it 30 seconds before the laptops came out?
I believe so. Yes,
about that.
30.
Maybe a little under that even.
I think you beat me too.
So we sat down. We had our laptops. Now I noticed you're running Neon, or you're running KDE of some sort.
Yep, that's correct. I'm running KDE over Antergos.
Antergos,
yes.
Do you know that? You know, I get crap for that on YouTube. So I said Antergos, and for years Chris used to pronounce it Antergos.
Yeah.
No. And
Antergos, was it?
Antergos, that's what it was. That's right. The R was after. Antergos, that's what he would say. And the thing is, and we joke about this off air all the time, but when you work in media and you read all of these names, you're the first person to ever say it a lot of the time. So these yahoos that are giving you a hard time have never actually had to say the name, and if they have to say the name, they've never done it on air before. And so a lot of the people that come out to critique you are in the know. With the reality is, like 90% of the people that have ever seen that name have no idea how to pronounce it. And so after he got all of this, took all of this crap for doing that, I went back and I was like, well, let's look at how to actually pronounce this name. And so I looked into it, and it's a Spanish name, so it's you roll the R and whatever. So I sat sounding it out, and I'm like, okay, I'll put on my best Spanish accent, then Targos. And so I said that on the air, and a couple people are like, that's funny, at least he got the R in the right place. But lately somebody's like, yeah, he drug out rolling that R way too long. And now I'm getting crap for that. And so now I just do it to irritate people. It's pretty ridiculous.
Let's just mangle a bunch of them and see what we get on
Yeah,
YouTube.
yeah.
That'll
Well,
be
I
fun.
did that for a while. I started rotating the pronunciation of Ubuntu towards the end of last. And every time I'd say it, they'd correct me.
This
So
is the stuff they don't tell you about radio shows.
No, not at all. So they would say so I just started saying Ubuntu and then Ubuntu and Ubuntu, and I just changed it to see who I could irritate that week. But so okay. So you've and Nia, how long have you been on KDE?
Probably about 6 months now.
Okay.
I switched to it because I wanted to try out the eye candy, the new shiny.
Sure.
And I've stuck with it because it's just been so stable for what I need it to do. And I'm definitely not asking a whole lot of it. I'm not doing too much for gaming. I do some stuff with Darktables, some browsing, some email, your typical sort of computer usage.
Sure.
But it's been very smooth. I am running it with a bit of a graphics card on my desktop at home.
Okay.
In addition, on my laptop, it's without a dedicated graphics card. It's been running just fine for what I need. I'm usually one to go with functionality over form. I
Sure.
usually like to go with the fastest available.
Okay.
But KDE has been just fine. I don't feel like it's that heavy.
Yeah.
And I stayed away from it for a long time because originally KDE before Plasma came out was not so great.
Sure.
And I switched to it, wanted to give it a try, stuck it in a virtual machine, did the whole, test drive thing, and I thought, well, this looks pretty nice. So I'd like to try it with some hardware. Threw it on my machines. I haven't looked back since. And everything has been great, except when I updated Antargos, it wiped my printer config, and I have no idea whether that was KDE or...
Yeah, and I've never found KDE to be... I wouldn't have I've ever described it as heavy, but what I would have said is that there are a lot of things under the hood that you can tweak, and that can be really daunting. Like, I would never wish KDE on a new user, to be honest with you.
No.
Like, I had a good friend of mine. He was I put him on Ubuntu Mate, and he was asking about the config for the mouse, and he wanted to make it more sensitive. And we found it, but it wasn't nearly to his liking. And I sent him the same config in the Plasma config. Is like there's 15 different options. Absolutely nuts. So more to come from Bitmux as the show goes on. I want to hear more about. I want to talk about that laptop and the keyboard that we were talking about. We've got another gentleman that was talking about low voltage. I want to get him on. We're going to have a conversation about low voltage structured wiring and what you can expect from support. And of course, if you want to join the program, the phone lines are open, 1-855-450-NOAH. That's 855-450-6624. The email live@asknoahshow.com. And I'm getting a message from my producer. We had a team meeting as we were discussing doing the new intro and things that we want to change. And I'm not supposed to say the phone number. I guess it's too long if I say 1-855-450-NOAH. That's 1-855-450-6. That's too long, apparently. I'm supposed to say 1-855-450-NOAH the first time. And he made sure to yell at me the very first time I got that wrong. Oh, Patrick is calling. Hey, Patrick, welcome to the Ask Noah Show. Oh, I got to put you on the air, though. Hey, Patrick, welcome to the Ask Noah Show.
Hi, Noah. It's actually Ben again.
Hey, Ben. How can I help?
Hi, Noah. Dude, you would not believe what's going on.
Uh-oh. That doesn't sound promising. You had success for a while. Things were working. What happened?
Well, my MacBook, I put Ubuntu on it. That wasn't a problem. But I'm right now in, of all things, LFS, and there's one quirk.
Okay.
It's the GUI, okay? The GUI, the smallest thing that I could get up on this beast of an OS was XFCE because GNOME was heavy to install. I mean, dude, there was a billion different steps you needed to install just to get GNOME installed. And I'm like, okay, that's not going to happen. And XFCE and KDE, KDE was going to take hours to install on a source-based OS like that. And so then I opted for XFCE because it was the second smallest next to LXDE. And LXDE, I hate to say, has the worst theming option of any Linux I've ever seen.
It is a lightweight Linux desktop. It's not really meant to look pretty.
Right. I mean, it's not my cup of tea. I've tried it. It's not worth it. an XFCE scales okay on this Mac, but it just doesn't have proper Mac support. So I'm like, okay. And I got the base of Mate installed, but the big problem I'm having is Mate is a fork of GNOME 2, as you know, so it's also kind of heavy and it takes forever to build anything on that.
Okay.
So I'm like, well, the problem I'm having is I want to find, well, I'm using the NVIDIA proprietary driver on LFS. That's not a problem. I got that working.
Right.
But I've also got the Intel installed, so those are fine. But my concern is this scaling crap with XFCE. It's like, what the heck am I going to do? Because, you know, I went into the settings, I set a custom DPI setting, blah, blah, blah. But the only downside.
So let me ask you this. Let me ask you this. Here's what I'm confused about. So I remember when you called the program before, we talked about some different desktop options, and I remember talking about the DPI scaling issue before. And like I said last time, like I mean, you really want to be on a desktop that is aware of high DPI monitors and has features and configuration that can take advantage of that. So that really leaves you with GNOME or you know, or Plasma.
Yeah. Right. And I don't mind building KDE on this, but it's just
okay. Well, how about this? How about this for how about this for another option? What about Ubuntu? Like, what about Ubuntu Mate? Because I you know, Martin Whitburst is doing some really great things, and I know that he's really working hard to get Ubuntu Mate working with high DPI.
Well, here's the thing. I've built Mate on my LFS, but the Mate Extras is the confusing part because I don't know if I need all that or not. That's what I'm curious about because, I mean, there's so much in that list that it's like, oh my God. I mean, you know, I mean, it's.
What are you worried about? Storage space or?
No, it's that the GUI itself, I'm not sure if it's going to work right without those extra packages. That's what I'm worried about because
that's what I'm saying. What I'm saying is, what's the concern with the extra packages? Are you just worried about space? You're worried about storage?
I'm not worried about space. I'm worried if it's going to load or not. That's what I'm worried about.
Okay.
I mean, you know, Mate, it's just, you know, I'm not really sure exactly if Mate needs those things. I'm actually going to log out of XFCE and to see if it even opens up. But, you know, like you said, XFCE is probably the worst option, as Chris, I'm sure, would say, for, you know, a GUI for a high DPI computer. And to no surprise, Mate is not loading. Great.
Okay, well, I guess what I would do... Yeah, what I would do at this point, Ben, because I don't think you're going to be happy staying on XFCE. I just don't see that being a long-term solution for you. I also don't think it's really meant for a high DPI display. So, I mean, if you can go to, you know, Plasma, that would be an option. If you can go to GNOME, I think that would be an option too. Looks like we might have some advice here from the community table.
My only thought is that if you're concerned about lightweight, Ubuntu Mate is also the name that springs to my mind.
Right.
And I don't know for sure about the building process. That's not something I have ever done, so can't advise you there. But the overall speed of operation, if you can get it to run, is going to be the Ubuntu Mate. And unfortunately, I'm no expert as far as the installation of and this is on a MacBook.
Right.
Is that correct? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can't help you there. Sorry.
Yeah, and the thing is too is chat room is talking about this too, and they're saying, you know, is Ubuntu Mate actually ready for high DPI? I don't know if it's ready yet. I just know that when we were at the Ubuntu Sprint and I was talking to Wimpy about it, he was saying that high DPI is definitely something that the Ubuntu Mate project is aware of. So that's really the best advice I have for you, Ben. And I'm sorry that I can't give you, you know, more in-depth help in a 5-minute radio call. But you know, Ubuntu Mate is probably your best option given what you're trying to accomplish and given how lightweight you want to go. Although, you know, if I remember right, you have like a 2013 or 2014 MacBook, something like that. I would not hesitate whatsoever to run GNOME or Plasma on that thing. I think it's going to run just fine. Either one of those would run.
Are slightly sideways comments okay?
Yeah, I had a feeling this was going to transition into something else.
Okay, and I mean, no offense, of course. Now that we've attempted to give a little bit of advice, my other thought is eBay it and grab a ThinkPad, but that may not be the right option.
So let's talk about that, because I was saying, I didn't think you can come on in. You can come on in. Don't worry about it. No worries. We were talking about when we were sitting out in the lobby. We were talking about ThinkPads, and you have a T410. And I was in love. I'm still in love with my T420. I sleep with it every night. It stays in the pillow. It's now not my main laptop anymore, but I still hug it a lot. And one of the things that you and I were talking about is it is designed from the ground up to be a power user's computer. Like the way the keyboard is laid out, the way the functionality is. It's not designed to look pretty. It's not designed to act pretty. It's just designed to be functional and useful. And when ThinkPad, somewhere along the line, Lenovo had this idiotic idea that they were going to redesign the ThinkPads to be more like MacBooks. And I got news for you. I'm sitting in front of a, what is it? X270. This thing is not impressing any Apple users. There's no Apple user in the world that is trading their MacBook Pro and buying one of these. It ain't happening.
For the black brick.
No way. I mean, there's just, no, it's ridiculous. And so, but yet, they have gotten rid of the useful keyboard and gone to this chiclet style, crappy knockoff that have all these function buttons ganged up together. And I was explaining to him this. You guys that are here in person can see this, but the people who are listening, they have to use their imagination. Up in this top row here, they've got all these function keys. So this doubles as my mute button. This doubles as my volume key. It's a very Mac-esque thing to do, right? The issue is, they have gained no usable space by eliminating the dedicated volume controls and stuff that they had here. But so they've gained nothing, but they've cost me a bunch of functionality. And then they doubled up the end and the insert button. Why? Let me help you with this. You know what button I use pretty much anytime I'm inside of my email editor or in the terminal or in a word processor or pretty much any other application where I'm typing? The N key.
The N button.
Yeah. You know what key I've never once used on any keyboard ever in my entire life? The insert key. It's just a useless key.
Never intentionally.
I don't know who came up with it. I suppose back in the days of typewriters, if you wanted to go back and align a character or something, maybe that was useful.
I don't know if hardcore coders still use it. Maybe. That's beyond me.
So not to get too drugged down into the weeds, but if you're going to replace the word, let's say there's the word Lenovo, and I wanted to replace that with a different brand, I either have to get the name to match the exact same number of letters up, or I have to use the delete key after I get to the end of the shorter thing, or I have to get to the end and then toggle the insert off to insert. It just doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
It's just stupid. Again, open phones 1-855-450-NOAA, 855-450-NOAA, 855-450-6624. The email live at AskNoahShow.com. And of course, we are live in our Mumble room. So if you want to join mumble.jupiterbroadcasting.org, you can join, and we'll take your questions that way, and just I guess ping me in the chat room, but make sure to tag me, Colonel Linux, in the chat room so I can actually see you. We have got a lot of things I want to get to this hour as we celebrate the 1-year anniversary of the Ask Noah Show. But first, I just want to thank some of the people that have made this show possible, because they work behind the scenes. You guys hear my voice every week, and you don't know some of the people that work in the background. The first and foremost is owner and operator of Jupiter Broadcasting, Mr. Chris Fisher. And a lot of you only see one side of Chris because you see his show side. And what you don't see is the friend side. What you don't see is the mentor side. And sometimes that leads to a misrepresentation of his character, I think. But more importantly is I don't think he gets due credit to all of the effort and sacrifices he makes, both personally and professionally, to get you the products that we have. And I don't know how much of the details I want to go into on the air, but suffice to say that when we first went on the air 1 year ago today, I called him up and I said, Chris, I want to start a show. I want to take call-in questions. I want to take questions from beginners. I want to help people that are in the community, and I want to do that as a show. And I don't know how popular it'll be. I don't think it'll bring in any sponsors. I don't think there'll be any money in it. I just want you to take all of your resources and a name that you've worked for 10 years to build up, and I want you to let me do it. And he said, you know what? I would love to let you do that. Here's the only issue. I am leaving on a trip to go to Austin, Texas. And I apologize for my stuffy nose. he said, I'm leaving to go to a trip to Austin, Texas to meet up at Dell. So I'd be happy for you to do that show. It sounds like a great idea, but would you be willing to do it maybe after I get back, or maybe we could do it at Linux Fest Northwest? And he gave me like 7 different really great options that would have worked very well for everyone, and I blew them all off and said, no, I really want to start April 3rd. And I had my own reasons for doing it, production reasons, as well as some things I was working on with the radio station. But I said, no, I really want to start at April 3rd, and I'll do whatever the work I have to do on my own. But I just need you to give me the name of your company and access to all of your infrastructure, and oh, by the way, pay for all of the production around it, and then let me do a show. And he said, okay, good luck. And if you ask him, the way he tells the stories, he says, I gave him enough rope to either hang himself or climb somewhere. So I don't know which one. I'd like to think I've climbed somewhere in a year. But just the other day, I was having a conversation with him, and we're at Jupiter Broadcasting, we're at an impasse. And a couple of things have come up, and a situation has come up. And I came to him and I said, this is where I think the direction of Linux is going, and this is where I think Linux can benefit the network, and this is why I think the network needs to take this particular risk on Linux, and this is what I think you should do. And he said, I recognize all of that, but at the same time, like, every time you want to do something on Linux, you have to understand that if it doesn't work out, it not only costs me money, but it costs me a reputation. And so I really want to, I want to put some thought into it. I want to think about it. I want to make sure I make the right call. And I'm like, yeah, I understand. And he got back to me about 2 days ago, well, 3 days ago. And I believe me, I've been counting. And he said, I thought about it. I gave it a lot of thought, and you can go ahead and try to do this thing on Linux if you want to. Don't screw up. So I went and we spent a lot of money and bought a lot of hardware. And so coming soon in the next month or so, we're going to have a really cool project all done in Linux, largely thanks to Chris's personal commitment in Linux, but also his personal commitment and belief in this particular show. And so I can't thank him enough or give him enough credit. And one of the things that we're excited to launch as we go into year 2 of the Ask Noah show is we are going to start doing public speaking. So we're going to be coming out to local universities, we're going to be coming out to your local Linux fests, and we're going to be submitting talks and coming out and talking about some of the really cool things that Jupiter Broadcasting has done over the last 10 years with Linux. And I think it's something that a lot of people kind of know in the back of their mind, but they don't really understand how committed this organization is to Linux, particularly Linux on the desktop. And so what we're going to do is we're going to start telling the story of how Jupiter Broadcasting got started. Jupiter Broadcasting actually really started out as a Linux distro. We talked about that here on this show a couple months ago. And eventually morphed into a podcast network, of the most successful Linux podcasting network. And we want to go tell the story of how that happened, what role Linux has played in shaping the network, and how Linux continues to be an asset and give us a unique brand perspective that basically no other Linux podcast has. And there are a lot of them that are doing a really good job. So huge thanks to Chris. Obviously a huge thanks to my wife and call screener Sarah. If you call this show, she does a really amazing job of going through, identifying who's calling in, what their questions are. That gives our team a little bit of time to do a little bit of prep on them. Also, if you ever hear me say I'm going to put you back on hold and somebody will pick up and give your and get your information, stuff like that, Sarah's the one that takes care of all that, and she compiles that all into a list for me and takes very good care of that, and we really appreciate it. Of course, Ben, our producer, we thank him at the end of every episode, but Ben is responsible for, he helps us out with guests, he helps us out with a bunch of in-studio stuff, so huge thanks to him. And even though he's no longer with the network anymore, huge thanks to Rikai, who for the first whole year of the show edited the video aspect and the audio, dealt with all of the uploading, published to the website, fed the little podcast feeders and stuff. So if you downloaded the show, if you didn't listen to it live, you wouldn't be listening to it if it wasn't for Mr. Rikai. And so huge thanks to all of those people who, who really made this show what it is, and will continue to be over the next year. Again, open phones, 1-855-450-NOAH. That's 855-450-6624. The email live at AskNoahShow.com. This comes to us from Washington Post. Now, usually I wouldn't take an article from Washington Post, but I feel like this is a public service announcement we have to do on the Ask Noah Show. In case you missed it, condom snorting challenge was a bad idea. Imagine uncoiling a condom, stuffing it in one side of your nose, then plugging the other nostril and inhaling as the long piece of latex slides into your throat. Then what? Well, you reach back in the back of your mouth and retrieve the condom. Good job, whoever came up with that. Now, I'm not, we try and keep this show pretty family friendly, and so I'm not gonna, I don't know how much I want to say on this, other than, and I'm not a sex ed teacher, but if you're putting the condom inside of your nostril and you're inhaling, you're not using it right. That's not the right way to use the thing. And the reason, why you're talking about this condom sorting nonsense on the Ask Noah show, we're supposed to be talking about Linux. The ramifications of social media these days, particularly young kids that want to make a name for themselves on YouTube, instead of starting a podcast where we take questions about Linux, they are inhaling condoms in their nose, pulling it out of their mouth. If they don't die, they post the video on YouTube and try to get some likes and subscriptions. And I guess what I want to ask is if anyone out there has some ideas of how we can address not necessarily the condom problem or the Tide Pod challenge or the burner challenge or the whatever the other idiotic thing. You got one? Yeah, go for it, man. Let's see here. I push that button.
All right. So I'm actually an educator. I teach science to middle schoolers.
Oh, okay.
And I'm working towards teaching responsible vlogging.
Okay.
So that's
cool.
been a personal project of mine for about the last 6 months or so.
Uh-huh.
And it takes a lot of scaffolding and a lot of work to really get them to understand what is okay to share, what is not okay to share.
So
then,
I just have to preface. We didn't talk about this at all because this is a pretty amazing coincidence. I was going to talk about this story, which I wouldn't ordinarily talk about, and then coupled with the fact that you're an educator. So this was I just found out. But so tell me a little bit about what you do when you go in as an educator and you try to talk about these things, because to a certain degree you want to inspire creativity, you want to inspire individuality, and so those things in and of themselves aren't bad. It's when those things turn to something dangerous or potentially have ramifications that, in 8th grade or 9th grade was cool, but now all of a sudden I'm applying for a job, and that video of me running around with my underwear on, with a firecracker in my butt, that's not so cool anymore. So, talk to me about how do you approach that conversation? What kind of methodology do you use?
Well, we do have some light curriculum that's called social and emotional learning to kind of teach kids to be better people. Mm-hmm. And a lot of that is talking about, what is your digital footprint and what is your digital citizenship that you have an obligation to. Mm-hmm. So we do have those conversations about what you do now can follow you for the rest of your life. And I think as some of that is coming into popular media more and more with recent things that are happening, kids are starting to take it a little bit more seriously now. Because, it was an authority figure telling you, oh, yeah, this happens and this happens and this happens, but they don't actually hear it from anybody else.
Right.
So now that it's starting to come up in more places, I think they're taking it a little bit more seriously. But what I'm trying to do with them is, of course, inspire them through science.
Sure.
And as they have those aha moments and different things like that, that's the type of thing that I want them to share and explore, rather than doing ridiculous things like you mentioned. So it's also trying to help them find new interests and to inspire them in other ways too.
Okay. So when you, because it's interesting that you're a science teacher, and so as you go through this, if I can twist it just a little bit to kind of bring some of the Linux back into it, as you go through, do you find ways that you can talk about Linux, or is it you follow the curriculum, so whatever they lay out, that's what you do?
Well, when I taught high school, I was able to do that a little bit more.
Okay.
In middle school, it's a little over their head, but all of my kids know that I'm a Linux user.
Sure,
I make that very apparent at the start of the year when I do my little about me and everything. And I also do some physical computing and some real basic coding in class.
Awesome.
And I always talk about the technologies that drive that forward and how, open source and open hardware is a really important thing in our community and as part of who we are as humanity, and try to bring that aspect into it a little bit as well. We are an Apple school, so all of our kids have iPads and different things like that.
Yep.
And it's locked down through our school management system and all of that stuff too. So when kids run into those limitations, I always, give them that spark in the back of their mind, like, it's not always going to be this way,
Right.
especially depending on how you choose your technology. If you go with open source, the sky's the limit, and just keep scratching that itch.
That's awesome. So, what are some of the reactions that you? I'm assuming that there's a large majority, especially in the middle school area, that they're going, "That's Linux. We don't know what that is." I mean, that's got to be a pretty typical reaction, yeah.
Yeah, they don't really know what it is, but a couple of the kids know about Raspberry Pis. They hear things from their parents and different things like that.
Okay.
I've been using Arduinos for the last couple years in class.
Cool.
And different things like that. So they know the difference from seeing like a microcontroller to a computer, and they know that they're different, and they're not quite sure what those differences are, but they're open to learning about them more, especially with the older grades. Like when you get into like 8th grade and 9th grade, they have a better grasp and they have a higher interest level.
Sure. Yeah, that makes perfect sense. That's really cool, and I just, I commend you for doing that, because if I always wish that I would have had, going back, I always wanted somebody, it didn't necessarily have to be a teacher, but just somebody that I could ask questions to about technology, and they would answer them. And I'm not trying to brag or boast or anything like that, but the problem, the brick wall I kept running into, and I feel like there's probably a lot of us, not only in this room, but just in this community, probably have hit this at one point or another. We wind up being the smartest person in the room sometimes. And what that ends up doing is it stunts your growth to be able to learn. And that's actually one of the reasons I find Linux Fests to be so important, because they allow us to sit down with people that are way smarter than us and exchange ideas. And so Linux Fest Northwest is coming up at the very end of the month. Of course, the Ask Noah show, Jupiter Broadcasting, will have a booth there. We'll be broadcasting live. We'll just wave the waitress in. Come on in, hang out. Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, no, that's fine. Yep, there we go. Yeah, so again, we're live from the Tamarack Tap Room, Woodbury, Minnesota. So we'll just take a second while the servers come back and refill the beverages, and appetizers are on me, beverages are on me if anyone wants to come out. Again, phone lines are open, 1-855-450-NOAH. That's 855-450-6624. The email, live@asknoahshow.com. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
Oh, no, I just have one quick thing to add.
Sure.
I've found people are a little apprehensive if somebody like myself expresses like an enthusiasm for technology.
Sure.
Like I'll never forget when I was in college, I had a writing course that I had to do, and I did a whole thing about how schools should be switching to open source.
Mm-hmm.
And I created a pamphlet explaining the benefits of it and explaining, it was OpenOffice at the time. That was like, super popular and everything. And my professor literally said, okay, you put a lot of effort in this, you worked really hard on it, nobody's going to listen to you. If you go to an administrator and you like pitch this thing, they're gonna be like, "You're a science teacher. Like, why should I take your opinion on this at all with anything?"
Sure.
So being able to push changes forward and to advocate for different things has always been a passion of mine.
Mm-hmm.
And I take every opportunity to kind of get onto tech committees and try to get my voice out there, even if it's not what they want to hear.
That's fantastic. And I would like to talk to you more off here about a couple of things that we're working on with Altispeed Technologies and get your input on it. Go ahead.
I just want to say, as the student who was always trying to work his way around the system, I have a thought, because I love your approach so much that you're teaching technological responsibility in addition to encouraging students to kind of explore and look around. And I just want to toss something out there to educators and parents. If you have a child or a student, especially a student, that is enthusiastic and maybe wants to work their way around the system, around the restrictions, squashing them may not be the right answer. My personal opinion, and especially as a father, is encourage them, give them a redirection, give them a place to use that creative outlet, because they are going to become the leaders of the future that software that hasn't been invented yet, they might be writing it 10 years from now.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, no, absolutely. And, I have dealt with that, as a parent. My son, he's always pushing the limits on what he can do. And I don't mean like the technical limits of like what he's capable of. I mean like the limits of like what the rules are. He always wants to push him just a little bit further than he has to. What has been frustrating for me as a parent is trying to decide where I draw that line. How much can I let my child experience technology without getting hurt, but at the same time, I'm not trading in my parent card, right? And so he wants to stream. And that's the big thing. I want to stream, Dad. I want to stream. I want to be live on YouTube. And I'm like, well, how about we record the videos and we'll put them in the family Telegram group or something like that, so these people can see it, but it's not actually on YouTube. And so trying to find that balance has been a difficult thing. But both of you are absolutely right. And like I said, I really commend you for what you're doing with those students. Again, open phones, 1-855-450-NOAH. That's 855-450-6624. The email, live at AskNoahShow.com. Chaz joins us from New York. Hey, Chaz, welcome to the Ask Noah Show.
Hey, Noah, happy birthday anniversary thingy.
Thank you, sir. Did you hear yourself at the top of the hour?
I did not, because I was listening to a different podcast that I catch you guys the next day. But hopefully you'll
sure.
forgive
Yeah,
me for
no,
that.
No, not at all. Yeah, I appreciate you leaving a voicemail. For those of you that don't have any idea what I'm talking about, we had asked a couple of weeks ago if anyone was interested in leaving a voicemail. That we played a montage at the beginning of the hour. Chaz was one of the people that did that, so I just wanted to thank him for that. So how can we help today, Chaz?
Well, it's kind of funny. I was listening to User Error over the weekend, which, bravo on all fronts with that episode. And it's kind of funny, as I'm trying to find ways to do more with less in terms of camping gear and other things of that nature. You're talking about how you have an NVIDIA Shield in every room of your house, which I just thought kind of funny. So since it's the anniversary show and all that, I thought I might kind of put you on the spot with sort of an opposite challenge for you. You get one laptop or desktop, I guess, and one distro for all eternity. We're going to a desert island with this. What's your ultimate, machine distro pairing, and why?
Red Hat, and here's why. I love the folks at Canonical. I love Ubuntu. I use Ubuntu. I have put other people on Ubuntu because I think it's such a great operating system. But at the end of the day, there's two things that play into it. One is Red Hat was the first distro that I ever used that really worked well for me on the desktop. I happen to know a lot of the people, and I'm in communication with them a lot, the people that work at Red Hat, and so I know the direction that they're taking Red Hat. And from a technical perspective, I still run into Red Hat boxes that I set up 15 years ago, and they're still working, and we're still able to use them. Now, I'm not suggesting that anyone don't upgrade a box that's 15 years old, but it does technically work. And I have very little confidence that I would be able to use an Ubuntu box 15 years later, or any distro. I shouldn't pick on Ubuntu. And it's quite possible that one of the LTSs would work great, but I've never seen that in my experience. It usually is those machines seem to be the ones that get upgraded for one reason or another, and it seems like my Red Hat boxes, even if they're 15 years old, we can still shoehorn software into them somehow, some way. And at the end of the day, I'm a Red Hat fanboy. I'm done hiding it. So if I had to pick one distro, it's gonna be Red Hat.
All right. And what about the machine it's on?
Oh, is that part of it too? Man, like a specific model, or just a brand, or laptop, desktop? What are we talking?
Laptop or desktop, your call. And I guess really no restrictions if you want to say, like what the processor, RAM, storage combo is, or if you've got a model like the XPS 13 or whatever System 76 is cooking up that is, exciting.
All right, I see where you're going. All right, well, I tell you what, I would rule out I would rule out the Galago, and I would rule out the MacBooks and the XPS, all for the same reason, because they don't have a usable, changeable battery. And if it's a machine I'm carrying for the rest of my life, I want something I can swap. But everyone at the table's like, yep. So for that reason, I would get rid of I would eliminate those. I would want something with an externally user replaceable battery. So that leaves me with the HP ProBook line. That leaves me with the Dell Latitude or Precision line, and the Lenovo's. And of those, I'm going to say ThinkPad, if only because they have such a track history of A, working with Linux so well, B, again, you go back, what computers are we using today that are 10, 15 years old? I got a guy sitting right next to me who has a 10-year-old 420, or 410. So I don't see a lot of 10-year-old Dells that are still in use. Not to say that they don't exist. I know the D620, D820 was a great model, but for those reasons, I think I would probably stick I'd stick with Lenovo.
All right. Well, it's good to know that I got the same brand as your Desert Island pick, even if I am using
There you
Solar.
go. There you go. I appreciate it, Chaz, and thanks again for supporting the Ask Noah show for 1 year. By the way, I'll just make a side rant here because it is a celebration episode and my name's in the name of the show, so I can talk about what I want. Chris and I never talk about camping. We never say that we go camping, right? We never say we go tenting. He travels in his RV, and I have a travel trailer I take behind me when I go places. But so to anyone out there that's like, that's not really camping, we never said it was. It's he lives in an RV, so instead of having a house, he has an RV, and he just lives in it. So he treats it like a house, and all the amenities. If he could pack all the amenities we run a house into an RV, that's what he does. And I do the same in my travel trailer. I don't call it camping, and I do a thing every year. In fact, hopefully we're gonna have a live Ask Noah show from this event. It's called Field Day, and what it is, it's a ham radio event where we try to exercise. Okay. I got two hams sitting next to me, and I'm going to get to the calls in a second. So don't, Chris and who else is here? James, stay with me. So, do you guys participate in Field Day?
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, so how do I explain Field Day?
It's a national emergency communications exercise that doubles as a contest and social event.
So, we go out to a random field, as it were. Sometimes they're not as fieldish, but we go to a random place, and we set up all of our radios, and and then you try to talk to as many other ham radio stations as you can, and we take score based on how many stations you connect to. Now, in a perfect world, or in a level playing field, everyone would just get 1 point, but we do what we call multipliers. So we add points based on how you set up your radio. So, for example, do they allow fixed towers?
They do, but you're in a different class.
Right. Okay. So the bottom of the barrel is you have a pre-fixed tower, and you plug into AC power and you operate your rig. Well, that's not. I mean, sure, if there's an emergency, if you can happen to find an erected tower and a power source, then I suppose that's an accurate representation. But the reality is, in the emergency world, we try to simulate. We wouldn't have access to that. And so if you have a crank-up tower, well, that you get more points for every contact because you assembled that tower yourself. And if you don't have any tower at all, if you just throw a dipole up and you just have a thing between two trees that you shot up with a slingshot, that is more power. If you're running off a generator, that's more. If you're running off a battery, it's more yet. Solar is another thing. And so the more, I guess, independent, is that a good way to explain it? More independent you are, the more points you get. And it's if anyone is ever interested in ham radio, that's the day to get into it, because
For sure.
Oh yeah.
So you participate as well?
Yep, I'm also a ham radio operator, and I go to the same field days that he does.
Oh, you do? So do you guys know each other?
Yeah.
Okay. So I have to ask, are you guys on the 8.5 machine?
Once in a while, but
Okay.
that one's so busy
that
sometimes it's hard to get a word in edgewise.
So for those who don't speak ham, there is one of the there is one of the coolest anywhere in the country, I'd say, that one of the coolest repeaters. So it's like a tower. It's like a machine on a tower that picks up the weaker signals from your handheld radio and then retransmits it to everyone. Is here in the Minneapolis area, and anyone that is around here, or they at least know what the 8.5 machine is, and when we talk on it, the problem is because it is so ridiculously powerful and so ridiculously well set up, everybody's on it. Because I've been 25 miles out of town and got it on a 1 watt handheld before.
Oh yeah.
It's just crazy well set up. And so you usually, at least in my experience anyway, I've gone to the 8.5 machine and said, hey, I want to have a conversation. They say, okay, well, meet me on this particular repeater, and then we move to a different one. We just kind of use it to coordinate. But I understand that the reason I ask about it is because I understand that the emergency service and the weather spotting service that runs here, which obviously is a big part of Field Day, is huge and very structured. You guys participate in that at all?
Not really. I don't, but
I have.
Okay.
I get into a little bit of the weather spotting, and I enjoy doing that. Now, I'm not out of the Twin Cities area. I'm actually south. But we have an active Skywarn spotter group, as well as, I guess, a local community that we like to get on the air and just jabber about, whatever. We have Linux groups to talk about Linux. We have radio groups to talk about radios.
Is there a Linux on radio group?
There is not in my area. I would
Okay.
love to make one.
Yeah. Count me in.
And if anybody wants to kind of get together on one of the linked repeater systems, shoot Noah a note.
Yeah, please.
Or jump on the Telegram group. My handle is Bitmux in the Telegram group.
Right. Telegram.asknoahshow.com. Yeah, no, that would be great. I'd love to be a part of that. In fact, I was looking at Yaesu has a not to get too drug into ham radio, but Yaesu has how do I describe wires? A digital internet connected ability to get ham radios on the internet, so that you can connect ham radios from different places that wouldn't necessarily, without having to invest in the antenna infrastructure?
Right. Instead of putting up a multi-$1,000 tower and gigantic antennas, you can grab your handheld radio, connect it to a local repeater that happens to be connected to the internet, pipe it through to someone else's repeater, and talk to someone you care about across the country.
Right. Or start a Linux group.
Start a Linux group. Combine the magic of the internet and the older, well, I wouldn't even say older, the old school method of just having a good chat on a party line of ham radio.
Exactly.
And you put those two together, it sounds like a good time to me.
Yeah, I can reg you with the best of them. That's why I have a radio show. I want to take... Oh,
There's
sorry,
a
go
few
ahead.
other technologies that do exactly that same thing within
Yep.
ham radio, like IRLP or Echolink.
So interesting thing about IRLP, if anyone wants to see how closely Linux and ham radio are related, go to the IRLP webpage, and they literally, one of the sections on their webpage is why we use Linux and won't use anything else. And you can click on it, and they go through and explain like how people have said maybe we could port the software to Windows or Mac, and they're like, no, we're going to run it on Linux, and here's why. They give this beautiful explanation of the open source nature and the fact that it's reliable, and the fact that it can be nobody can take control of the code, and all of this great stuff. And so but they want to keep it on Linux. I want to take a couple calls. They're stacking up here. Annie is calling from California. Hey, Annie, welcome to the Ask Noah Show.
Hi, I got a question about. I used Mate, and I've used they call it Monte, excuse me, and Zubuntu instead of Xubuntu. But now I'm using Lubuntu, and before I can always put these little jumper things in the top. I don't bar. What do you call them? Those bars that go across the top or the bottom.
Yeah, like a dock.
I can't find a way to put my own. Yeah, I can't find a way to put my own jumper in the dock in the upper part. I can go into the GUI and put programs in there, but only programs that it recognizes. So, a good example, my specific example is I have a profile manager for my Firefox, and so I can load my different Firefoxes with the different versions. So I have one for just like for different uses, and I can put that into the Firefox or the Internet jumper, but I can't make my own jumper. You see what I'm saying?
Gotcha. Yes, ma'am.
Does that make any sense?
Makes perfect sense. Yeah, absolutely does. So,
is there any special GUI commands or line commands in the terminal? I don't know how to do the terminal. I know how to cut and paste.
Sure. So I have good news for you, Annie. It's actually much easier than that. What you do if you're on Ubuntu Mate is simply right-click on the bar, and one of the options is to add a new shortcut. And from that new shortcut, you can. I guess you can. It'll give you one of the options inside of the new shortcut is the command option. So let's say you want to run a specific version of Firefox, you can give it the path to that specific version of Firefox. Or if you want, even if you wanted it to open like a specific web page, you can give it the Firefox command followed by a parentheses and the web page that you want it to open. Now, I'm just asking this because I want to make sure that we're helping you. Is it fair to say that you're a fairly new user to Linux?
Fairly, yeah. I mean, fairly by like 3 or 4 years.
Okay, sure.
Every time I went to switch, when they upgraded to a new version of Windows, I swore I was going to switch to Linux, but then they cut the bugs out. But Windows 10 just pushed me over the edge.
Yeah, I hear you. Man, I tell you what, you listen. You jumped out at the right time. Let me tell you, because I have people they're talking up a storm. The customers that I have that are on Windows 10. In fact, I was just having a conversation while I was on the road down here to Minneapolis about a client that is furious that they can't seem to get rid of these Windows 10 updates that go and change their system all the time. So it's a really great time. And the nice thing about Mate is it was specifically built for people that want a consistent interface. In fact, Wimpy goes above and beyond to make sure that whether you came from a Windows environment, a Linux environment, a macOS environment, you can maintain that look with his panel layout. But here's what I was going to offer, Annie. I will give you, I'll put in the show notes step-by-step directions on how to create those icons if you like. If that doesn't work, Annie, what I want you to do is if you have some concerns, or if you say that sounds like that could be difficult for me or challenging, we want to make sure that we take care of you, especially on the 1-year anniversary of the Ask Noah show. So I'm going to put you back on hold, and if you'd like to, Sarah can pick up and take your email address or phone number, and we will schedule an Altispeed technician to walk you through step by step the process, or even start a screen share session with you and do it for you. And if that's not interesting or something you're not interested in, just go ahead and feel free to hang up, and I'll have step by step directions for you in the show notes after the show. Chris is calling from West Virginia. Hey, Chris, welcome to the Ask Noah show.
Happy birthday!
I don't know, it's not my birthday, but yeah, hey, man, it's a happy 1-year anniversary. How are you doing?
Noah show birthday. It's the birthday
I'm sitting
of the
with
Ask Noah show. Anniversary, okay.
That's true. That's true. The birthday of the Ask Noah show. I'm sitting with your counterpart here from another fellow educator from the state of Minnesota.
Well, I was looking for a reason to call, and he and the other gentleman that made a comment are the reason I'm calling.
Okay, what's funny? Off mic, Chris, I got to tell you, off mic, I'm sitting here, and as soon as I said, for your part, he looks over at me, he's like, "Is that Chris DeLuca?" I'm like, "Yes, it is."
Well, I just wanted to say, good on him for how he's doing, and you can't start with these kids too young. I'm not an educator. I'm an IT administrator for one of the counties here in West Virginia.
Yeah, but you know what I mean. You're one of the people that facilitates kids getting an education. You do a darn good job of it, so don't sell yourself short.
Well, thank you. But what I was going to say is we have my comment is more to the gentleman who said that he was the one who tried to circumvent the system. We have a lot of middle schoolers who apparently get bored, and so they like to pick the keys off of Lenovo laptops and we spend a lot of time replacing keys. Oh yeah, it's bad. So we were
sarcasm font off.
Right. We were piloting a program in one of our high schools, and one of my counterparts in the county actually has an IT staff made up of students. They have taken the role. He interviews them like a job. He treats them like actual co-workers on a job. Yes, sir. No, sir. They have taken the responsibility of the laptops from a student perspective to the next level. They actually are watching other students say, "Hey, don't treat the machines like that. I have to fix that." Seriously. But when you have one of your peers saying, "Stop damaging the school equipment," it's a lot different than when you have a principal or a teacher saying, "Stop damaging the school equipment."
Well, and when they have to, like you said, when they have to fix it, all of a sudden they have a personal vested interest in keeping those computers. And it's a matter of pride too, right? Because they're the ones that set up 25 of those things, and now all of a sudden they're getting picked apart or whatever, right?
Well, absolutely. It's just, when you get the kids involved on a different level than just trying to shove information down their throat, it seems that they take to it more. So, you said my counterpart there, the way he is approaching that. We've got another teacher in the county that kind of does the same thing. He's brought Raspberry Pis into the classroom, and he's done programming with the students, and it's just amazing when you see. I mean, I messaged you earlier about a middle schooler who's working with OBS who got the green screen working.
Right. Yes. Yeah. You want to talk about that? I guess there's not much else to say.
Well, honestly, because of the strike that happened here, a lot of the schools are in spring break, but a lot of the schools aren't. But they're not holding it against the students. So if the parents wanted to go, they let them have the days. Well, there's so few kids in the school, some of them are running around, and one just happened to be running around with one of the custodians. And he came into our shop, and he recognized me. He didn't know who I was, and he started calling me every name in the book, and then he said, "Big bald guy in the corner." Well, finally, I just said, "Yeah." And he says, "You're the one that set up the broadcasting machine, right?" And I'm like, "Yeah." And he starts asking me, he wants a mirrored screen of the OBS screen. And I was like, "Well, okay, but why?" He says, we want to do the weather. We want to have a weatherman, and he needs to be able to see what he sees and not the 10-second or 5-second lag. And I'm like, "Okay, meet me in there at 2 o'clock." And he says, "Okay." So I go there at 2 o'clock, and I set it up, and he starts showing me everything he's done, and the green screen, and he's got multiple backgrounds now, and I'm like, "Show me how you did that." And he's like, "Oh, sure, no problem." And he starts pointing and clicking and making a new one, and I said, "You know, the high school's not doing this yet?" He says, "They will be next year." And I said, "I've got a guy that would love to talk to you."
Yeah, absolutely.
Maybe I can get him on the show with you. Yeah.
Yeah, parental consent and all that stuff was notwithstanding, but yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it's just when you get them involved and you see their eyes open up, and he doesn't even know what Linux is. I had to explain to him the difference between a GIF and a JPEG.
Sure.
He's like, "Look, if you can explain it to me like farm implementation, then I'll understand you." So I had to break it down. So
here's the $1 million question I got to ask, Chris, before I move on. If you set this guy straight, or if you set him on a path that's going to lead him to self-destruction and the eventual annihilation of our species, did you pronounce it GIF or JIF?
I pronounced it GIF. JIF is a peanut butter.
Okay, good. Thank you. Thank you. No, he's right. He's right.
That's the guy's name. Very right.
Yeah, the guy that invented it actually says that's not correct, but he doesn't know what he's talking about. So that's really great, though. Well, that's great, Chris. Well, I appreciate it, and I think maybe I don't know exactly how we would structure this, or even how my producer's probably gonna fall out of his chair when I say this, but I'd love to do an episode just on kids and technology and things that educators can do, and things that educators are doing, cool things that work, cool things that don't work, because I have a suspicion, and I've heard this, both of you have kind of said this in roundabout ways. Kids tend to work better when it's people that are, when there's not a versus mentality, when the people that are making those decisions are people that are approaching it from their point of view, with their interest, with their value set in mind, and not this top-down approach of, here's what this board has decided is valuable for kids to learn because we want to make them productive members of society, and so we need to teach them Microsoft Office, and we have to teach them macros, and we have to teach them web design, and we have to teach, which is the stuff that I learned when I wanted to go learn about computers. And I would have loved to sit down and play with a Raspberry Pi or an Arduino, and I never had that opportunity. I had the opportunity to go learn how to make tables inside of Excel and do calculations, and all of that stuff would have been very useful had I become a certified accountant. Be it as it may, I did not become a certified accountant, and it has proven it's to be totally worthless. So I'm really thankful that there are people like you guys that are out there that are doing those things and making a difference in kids' lives. And a huge thanks to everybody that... I'm just looking at messages that are coming in here. And a huge thanks to all of you that have been part of the Ask Noah show. James... do we got you? Yeah, okay. James, Idaho, welcome to the Ask Noah show. I got about a minute.
Oh, you probably won't be able to get it done.
Okay.
Do you have anybody that you might know? You can tie me up later. You can share out my email. I need to know how you can change the KDE newest version splash screen, because all it seems to have in it now is splash screen on and splash screen off.
Okay. Yeah, I don't, off the top of my head, James, I don't know the answer to that question, but I will, there's a bunch of people in the Ask Noah Show Telegram group, telegram.asknoahshow.com, so I'll ping them and see if they have any answers for you, as well as, obviously, every time we talk about something in the show, then, somebody writes in. Hey guys, did you know this show is available as a downloadable podcast? That's right. To subscribe to the feed or download the latest episode, visit podcast.asknoahshow.com. While you're there on the Ask Noah dashboard, help us improve the show. If you have an idea how to make the show better, head over to asknoahshow.com/better and let us know how we can make the show better. Join the ongoing discussion at telegram.asknoahshow.com. As always, you can get the latest information by following us on Twitter @AskNoahShow. The Ask Noah Show continues next Tuesday at 6 p.m. Central. A huge thanks to Vox Telsus for providing our phone system.